Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists, episode 599. Wow. My name is Kyle.
My name is James.
And my name is Zach.
And we're here to talk movies, movie lists, and movie obsession for the next hour or so. We can do this in an hour, right?
Sure.
I don't see why not.
All right, Zach, go.
No.
Welcome to episode 599. This is a very important episode of the Cinereelists. We're glad you're here with us. This is a long-standing tradition here on the podcast where we add another 100 movies to our top films of all time. Favorite films of all time, rather. Why do we pick favorite over top? Just because favorite is subjective compared to top, or?
I would say favorite's more subjective than top. Yes.
Okay.
Well, favorite is the only thing we're the authority on. Like, you are the world authority on your favorite films.
That's true.
But if we were to pick what we think are the top films of all time, that's just completely subjective.
Sure. Even though we do it often with the word top. When it probably should always be favorite.
It should always be top 10 favorite, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. But
All right. Yeah. So what are we doing here, guys? What
what
for
are
people
we
for
doing
people
here?
who just started listening to this podcast? What is this nonsense? What's happening? Zach, can you describe to them how we got here?
Yeah, absolutely. So this podcast has been going for a while. When we hit episode 99 and 100 of the Cinereelists podcast, we thought, wouldn't it be great to do our top 100 favorite films of all time for James and I? So we both made a list, a separate list, obviously, because the movies James likes are different than the ones I like. And we went through them, and that was a lot of fun. When we hit episode 200, we're like, well, let's add to the list. So we came up with our top 200 movies of all time. Now, we'd already talked about our top 100. So all we really had to discuss was our 101 to 200, right? What we're the 100 we're adding on. Well, now we're in episode 600 or 599, and so we're going to add our top 600 to 501 favorite films of all time. So our top 500, we've already talked about them. They're actually easy to find. Just go to episodes 400, 500, 300, 200, 100. You'll find them. We're going to update our list and add 100 more. Today's episode is just going to be our 600 to 551 favorite films of all time. And then on episode 600, we'll get down to 501.
What I find funny is I joined the podcast full time somewhere between episode 400 and 500. So even though I have a list of my top 100 through 400, and maybe listeners can kind of glean what some of my favorite movies are, I've never actually ran through all of those. So, right. But people here know my top 500 and now my top 600, the really important ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if they really want to know what your top 100 is, they could support us on Patreon and get about 70 of those.
Yeah, we never quite finished that list.
I mean, not yet. We're getting there. It's a slow roll.
Yeah, it's been a real priority of Patreon to go. But right, we have been slowly going through my top 100. And I think we got through 60 or 70 of them, like you said.
Right. Speaking of Patreon, we have one. Go check it out. Patreon.com/Cinereelists. Support the podcast. Get extra after show audio, including Kyle's top 100 list, as told over the course of 2 or 3 years. Also, you could support the podcast by checking us out on YouTube, youtube.com, the @ symbol, and then the word Cinereelists, or just search Cinereelists. That might even be faster at this point. You could support us by leaving us an Apple Podcast review. We'd appreciate that. 5 stars only, or send us an email to heyguys@cinereelists.com, REEL with an S on the end. Send a comment, a question, a list suggestion, a movie suggestion, any of those kinds of things. Maybe your top 600. Have we ever gotten a top like 500? Like in past years, did we ever get a top whatever number we were doing from somebody? We have to have, right?
We certainly have gotten to top 100s before. I don't remember if we've gotten more than that.
Okay, so here's the challenge. list out your favorite 600 movies
In order.
Ranked,
in order
yes.
of preference. Justify each one with a essay, 5-paragraph essay, and mail it to us. Hey guys at Cinereelists.com. That's your homework.
That's what we're doing today, right? We're going to spend about 5 minutes in each movie, just so we
Yes.
can really talk about why our 597 is where it is.
It's going to be a 16-hour podcast. Yep. That's exactly what we're doing.
I might
we're
call into work tomorrow, so
we have a lot of movies to go over, potentially 150 unique movies in this one episode. And so we will be flying.
I wonder how much overlap there'll be. How many bingos?
I don't think there will be any.
What do you think the same movie will be on two people's list today?
In an episode or within the 501 to 600?
Today.
Just today? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think so.
I think there may be a movie shared between the two top 100s.
Sure. I think today.
You think today? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see if it happens.
Now, I want to remind people that I don't just do this willy-nilly. I have criteria that helps me decide.
Are you saying that Kyle and I do it willy-nilly?
No, and if you felt an accusation there, that's something that you need to deal with.
I draw movies from a hat at this point. I'm like 501, sure. 502, okay.
I have 5 criteria that I judge where it should be on the list based on these criteria. So I just want to repeat those like I do every time we do this.
Let's hear it.
My 5 criteria for why a movie might be on a list such as this for me.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, nostalgia. Number 2, artistic appreciation for. Number 3, enthusiasm for. So if I'm just like excited about the movie and want to tell other people about it, that's enthusiasm.
Okay.
4 is memorability. So a movie that I've only seen once could potentially come on this list if it like is seared into my brain, if it's very memorable.
Sure.
And number 4, rewatchability. So if it's a movie that I would happily rewatch over and over and over again, it has a good chance of landing on this list.
That's interesting, Zach. I also have criteria. I have 6 of them, and they're vastly different than yours.
For the record, I have 7.
Okay.
Everything Kyle's going to say plus runtime.
So these are my 6, and they're completely unique.
Okay.
All right. Number 1, rewatchability.
Yeah. Well, obviously you took my criteria.
I must have. I don't remember taking your criteria, but I added a new one.
Okay.
And that is number of viewings, not a literal, but like if I've watched a movie multiple times, there's a chance that it could be more of a favorite than a movie I watched once. So,
okay.
All right.
Yes.
Fair enough.
I also weight mine too. That's the other thing. So like nostalgia doesn't have as much weight as enthusiasm.
Interesting.
But it's complicated. So we won't get into that.
That's for another day for Kyle to break down his complicated mathematical equation.
Oh, yeah.
That becomes his list. Also, there's been a lot of discussion as to whether we were actually going to do this after doing our top 500. We've landed, obviously, on actually continuing this series. Because I think the question was is this a frivolous exercise? And in the process of adding another 100 to my list, I don't think it is for 2 reasons. One, these movies, the ones I'm about to add, are in the top 12th percentile of all movies I've ever seen. That's still pretty high, somewhere between 12 and 13. And on top of that, I didn't add a single movie that wasn't a 4-star movie or a 4.5-star movie for me on Letterboxd.
Same.
And so it might seem like a ridiculous exercise to be above 500 or even above 100, really, for most people. But for my viewing habits over the course of my lifetime, we're still in the good movies here.
Now,
totally.
I've seen less movies than both of you. So at this point, I have now ranked 25% of all the movies I've ever seen, which is stupid.
I mean, that means that's still in the top 25th percentile.
But it's still top 25th percentile. So maybe when we get to like top 1,000, we might just need to put a cap on it then.
Well, by then you'll have seen more movies.
Yeah, but I don't know if we've seen quite that fast. We'll see.
And that's the last episode of the podcast anyway. the
Top
1,000th
1,000.
episode, so
Yeah.
you won't have to worry about it after that.
Okay. At that point, there's nothing else to talk about. We've talked about 1,000. We've ranked 1,000 movies. What's the point anymore?
Right. Exactly my thought. All right, let's jump into this. It's our top 600 movies of all time. Number 600 to 551 today. I'll start. My number 600 is a little movie from the 90s starring Keanu Reeves and a bus and an actress. I'm forgetting her name. It's Speed. Who was in Speed?
Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock.
Yes.
The movie that broke her out, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's when I first heard the name Sandra Bullock and was engaged with her content. I love Speed. It's very cheesy. I rewatched it on 4K within the last year or so, and it definitely is a thin movie, I would say. But still a fun watch. My number 600.
That's my number 491.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. My number 600 is from 2016, Captain Fantastic. This is written and directed by Matt Rose, and stars Viggo Mortensen. And this is a movie where he is raising his children. He has a lot of children to be like warrior poets, basically.
Yeah.
He like, they're off the grid. He's like not a part of your system, man. And he's teaching his kids like to be these Renaissance people that can handle themselves in any situation. And then he butts up against the system. And I just really enjoyed this movie, and I found it very engaging and endearing, and I liked this character and the story, and so I was taken by this movie. So it's Captain Fantastic.
Nice. My number 600 is a 2020 movie we watched for the podcast, I think, called Run. This is about a girl in high school who has a lot of ailments. She's in a wheelchair. She's heavily medicated. She lives with her single mother, who is very caring to a fault. And this girl starts to question maybe her world, if everything is as it seems to be. This is a thriller. Sarah Paulson plays the mother, who I learned recently is not Sarah Pauli. They are two different people. So was good for me to learn. And I thought this was a pretty well executed thriller that I enjoyed during the pandemic.
My number 599, Kronos, directed by Guillermo del Toro. His first feature-length movie, and a good one. You can definitely see a lot of Guillermo del Toro in his first movie. You can see kind of the template being assembled within this. It's a little lighter than some of the stuff he gets into right after that, but this is a good one. It's essentially just like a fairy tale told with a dark twist, and that's what he kind of became known for in the earliest part of his career, and probably to this day, I would say he's still making those kinds of movies. Kronos, my number 598.
599.
599.
Oh boy, James.
Cool. Okay, my number 599 is called The Girl Chewing Gum from 1976. And this is an avant-garde kind of short film. And it's really interesting. It purportedly is just filming a London street, and like people are walking around the street. So you're just kind of voyeuristically watching street life or whatever. And then a narrator comes on and starts like directing people's movements and stuff. Including like inanimate objects like, the clouds in the buildings and stuff like that. And it's kind of like he's orchestrating what's happening. But really, everything was just filmed, and then the narration happened afterwards, and it was purporting to like tell them what to do. Anyway, it's a very interesting, thought-provoking kind of film about like the difference between fiction and reality, and like narrative and just what's real life and that kind of thing. So I think it's pretty fascinating. It's a short watch, and I enjoyed it. It's called The Girl Chewing Gum.
Right. My number 599 is a 1994 movie called Ed Wood. This is directed by Tim Burton, stars Johnny Depp, who plays the
This movie's
infamous.
awful.
You think this movie's awful?
That's so bad.
Okay. Well, that's why it's my $5.99, not yours. Johnny Depp plays the infamous filmmaker Ed Wood, who was a independent filmmaker during the, I don't know, like the 50s, who just wanted to make his own terrible movies outside the studio system. He was a real artiste. Martin Landau plays Bela Lugosi, and Sarah Jessica Parker's also in this movie, and I liked it. I thought it's a good Johnny Depp performance playing a odd character.
I'd like to support Kyle and go against Zach and say it is a great movie.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
No.
It just has two things Zach hates: Johnny Depp
And
and
Tim Burton.
so, and black and white. For some reason, he hates black and white. My number 598 is a movie from 1984 titled Razorback, which
The pig?
is about a pig in the outback, a murderous pig. And since it's 1984, it's all practical effects. It's very of the time, but yet interesting, like in a Mad Max kind of low budget 80s Australian produced and set movies. And I had a great time with this. I watched it maybe 5+ years ago, so relatively recently. And even though it is dated, it's dated in the good ways, not the bad ways, in the ways where you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to forgive every flaw in this movie because this is fun to see. If it wasn't a movie in that documentary, Zach, about like grindhouse Australian films, I'd be surprised. It was
yeah, I'm
probably
sure.
covered there.
I'm sure it is. Okay, my number 598. I'm surprised it's in there, but the Super Mario Brothers movie from 2023.
Nice.
This movie was just a lot of fun, and it honestly gave me a ton of what I wanted from this movie. I love Super Mario as a kid, and even now, and my 3-year-old son loves Super Mario, and it was great seeing it so well executed on the screen. So, Super Mario Brothers movie.
Well, that's okay, Zach, because my number 598 is a 2022 movie that surprised me, but here we are, Avatar: The Way of Water. I had a good time with this movie. I think it's a step up from the original Avatar, and I could say going forward, the less Jake Sully, the better.
My number 597 is from 1973. It's Badlands, the first movie written and directed by Terrence Malick. It's kind of
So good.
It's kind of a kindler, gentler, natural born killers, I would say.
Yeah.
It's actually a very similar story to that, but you get very young Martin Sheen and Sissy Spacek, kind of a couple committing crimes and on the run, and it was great. I enjoyed it. It's before Terrence Malick like completely became like 100% artsy fartsy. He was like still trying to make strong narrative movies with.
It's a little artsy fartsy at times.
It's a little,
Yeah.
like, you know, I like the artsy fartsy stuff too, but this is a different breed, I would say.
It's a top 100 for me.
Nice.
Yeah, that's 322 for me on my list. My number 597 is another short film. This one from 1898. So very, very early cinema.
I
It's
hope
called
this
the
is-
launch.
Go ahead.
What? It's called the launch of HMS Albion at Blackwall. I messed up the title. It's the launch of HMS Albion at Blackwall. So this is footage of the launch of a battleship, and all the crowds of spectators coming to like see it take off or whatever, and then the wave from the battleship caused like a massive like collapse of a jetty, and a ton of people like were hurt, and some people died, and it was just chaos afterwards, right? So this is the late 1800s filming this, and it's just absolutely spectacular. Like, it looks amazing with this huge battleship and all this commotion, and you're seeing like a totally different time, and then like there's just natural crisis and chaos, and it's just a very compelling movie. And it's fun to make those discoveries of something that's 125 years old. So that's my number 597, the launch of HMS Albion at Blackwall, and it's on YouTube if you want to check it out.
I was hoping you were going to say your 597 was Electrocuting the Elephant.
Yeah, I don't like that one.
Because they kill an elephant.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's bad.
It's bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. My number 597, another 2022 movie, Emily the Criminal, starring Aubrey Plaza as a woman who can't get a regular job. So she gets into the world of fraud and gets deeper and deeper. And I think it's a great performance from Aubrey Plaza. And I found it to be a very believable story, too. The decisions she made sense. And the choices she made to get deeper and deeper into this world lined up. It didn't seem like she was just making movie decisions. She was making real life decisions. So impressive Aubrey Plaza performance.
My number 596 is from 1995. It's The Usual Suspects, which I'm surprised wasn't already on my list, but it wasn't. And then I looked at all the other movies before it and I was like, this is a movie that like 90s James really thought he liked. And then over time, I kind of feel like the twist is what the majority of it is. And so over time, it's like the shock of it wears off. And also I'm not really enthused with the people that are in it, I would say. And so I as much as I'd like to separate those things, it's kind of hard when there's like multiple people involved with a project where I'm just like, ugh, I feel gross just thinking about watching it and supporting it. And so I couldn't leave it off my list, but I'll leave it in the 500s, The Usual Suspects.
All right. My 596 is called La Strada. It's an Italian film from 1954, directed by Federico Fellini. And this one has a very charming lead actress playing the role of a woman named Gelsomina. And she's like sold by her mom to be to work at a circus. And so it's kind of like a road movie in 50s Italy. And it's just, yeah, it's a great character study. And I think it's really great. And if you're into Italian cinema and you want to watch more Fellini, this is a great one. It's called La Strada.
Nice. My 596, another 2022 movie, 3 in a row now. This is Decision to Leave. This is directed by Park Chan-wook of Old Boy and The Handmaiden fame. This is a movie about a detective who's investigating the death of a man on a mountaintop. He starts to suspect the man's wife is involved in the murder, but then also starts having odd romantic entanglements with her. This movie is very Hitchcockian, I would describe it as, and other people have too, in its storytelling. And it's also a movie where if we were to make a list of like movies that take a sudden left-hand turn, I would put this on that list. It's not so much a twist or a spoiler, but you're getting one thing, and then about halfway through the movie, it sort of changes up what it's giving you.
Had you seen that by the time you made your top 10 from that year or top 20 from that year?
I think I had. I think it was in my top 20 of 2022. I'm not 100% sure, though.
That's one that I don't think we talked about on the show that I wish we had.
There's enough going on in that one to talk about. Yes.
It's a good one for sure.
Yeah.
And speaking of a good one, my number 595, this is a documentary, Paradise Lost, The Child Murders at Robin Hood Hills. Zach's favorite Robin Hood movie. This is a documentary, a true life documentary directed by Joe Berlinger, co-directed by Joe Berlinger, who about 3 guys who are young, they're teenagers, and they get accused of murdering a kid in a creek. And they're kind of like Metallica fans, heavy metal fans, D&D fans. And since it's the moral panic of the 80s, early 90s, they get blamed for the murder and kind of railroaded into being convicted. So the documentary covers the crime and their attempt to clear their names. And it's really, really good and spawned 2 sequels and 2 follow-up films. And I won't spoil the ending if you don't know anything about this. If you don't, you should check it out. Start with this one and keep watching.
Nice. My 595 is Straight Outta Compton from 2015. It's a movie we watched for the show, and I really liked it. I didn't know anything about NWA or Eazy-E, Ice Cube, Dr. Dre. So this movie was a lot of fun. And then, watching and reading stuff later and seeing, how similar some things were or looked, it was really fun. And so I think this is a really good example of kind of like a bio story.
Still need to catch that one. It's the runtime that turns me off.
Yeah, but it's good.
I'm sure. I like that music. I'm more familiar with those names than you are, but I see it.
I mean, I know the name. I just didn't know like Eazy-E's story at all.
Oh, well, actually, I'm familiar with those things too. So. I've seen it. I don't need to see that. No. All right. My number 595 is a 2020 documentary. Not many documentaries make my lists, but here is one at 595. It's called The Way I See It. This is a documentary about the White House photographer during the Obama administration named Pete Souza. And this is him reflecting on his time in the White House and the working with the Obamas and the things that are going on in the country during that time. And then also about his somewhat folk hero status he had like on Twitter during the Trump administration for just posting pictures of Obama doing things and juxtaposing that against things that Trump was doing at the exact same time as his own sort of political commentary. And it's he's an interesting person. I mean, he has interesting backstory before he was in the White House. And I think this is what, if you want to learn interesting American political intrigue things, this is a good movie to watch.
Haven't seen that one. It's been on my list. I need to get to watching.
Yeah, it stars Pete Souza, Barack Obama, and Donald Trump. So
my favorite actors.
Your favorite trio right there.
My 594 is from 1971. It's Fiddler on the Roof, which I believe I watched because it's high on Zach's list, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know exactly where. Maybe even top 100.
It's my 91.
Nice. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was great, despite the fact it's an older movie and a musical. It was super fun to watch. Very energetic movie. With a depiction of a culture that like I had never seen before. I thought that was interesting as well. And I remember it being long, but I don't remember the runtime off the top of my head.
It is long. It's probably 3 hours.
Right. But it was fine. I'm certain I felt the length, but that it was all good, which is the sign of a good movie. 594.
That's awesome. My 594 is also very long. It is Gandhi from 1982. And this is the Ben Kingsley Gandhi. Mm-hmm. And it's a really kind of epic movie. I mean, I think, did it win an Oscar or something?
I think Ben Kingsley won an Oscar.
It won 8 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor.
Yeah. So Ben Kingsley won an Oscar, like I said.
And it's directed by Richard Attenborough. I think this movie is really epic and well made, so I liked it a lot.
Richard Attenborough, the voiceover guy?
No, John Hammond.
Oh, that guy.
David's brother. David is his brother.
Guy.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, they're brothers.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day.
There you go. You learned that Richard and David Attenborough are related. I learned that Sarah Paulson and Sarah Polley are not the same person. So,
right.
Yeah. My next movie is from 2021. I just scrolled through, and there's a lot of 2020 or 2000s movies in this top 600. Because I think this is kind of where I lumped sort of together movies I saw in the last 20 years that I enjoyed, but didn't leave a lasting impact. So it'd be a lot of recent movies on this list. So my 594 is from 2021. This is called Swan Song. This movie stars Mahershala Ali. This takes place in the near future, where Mahershala Ali is dying of a terminal disease. And there is a new program where he can essentially clone himself and replace himself with a clone to his family. But his family has no idea he's doing this. That's kind of how it works. So they don't know he's sick. They don't know he's considering this process. So this movie is him wrestling with the implications of, do I clone myself, and do I have that clone replace me, and what is self? So it's definitely a talky, heady sci-fi movie, but I think it's really fascinating. The discussions they have has a great. I think is it Glenn Close or Robin Wright? I think it's Glenn Close is also in this movie. She plays sort of the director of this company that is trying to talk him through the process. I think this is an Apple TV movie, a little under the radar, but definitely worth checking out if you like Mahershala Ali.
Have not seen that one yet, but I'm into it. My number 593, speaking of recent movies, is from 2022. It's EO, the donkey movie, not the
Nice.
3D movie starring Michael Jackson.
Captain EO.
Captain EO, yes. Yeah, literally this movie follows a donkey for an hour and a half. And as he goes from owner to owner and harrowing situation to harrowing situation. And most of it is shot from not necessarily the perspective of the donkey, but the donkey's the main character. So people come in and out of the frame. But for the most part, the donkey's not in the scene. The camera's not rolling. And I really enjoyed this movie. If I was giving out cinematography awards for that year, this movie would win hands down, I would say. I don't remember what else it would be going up against, but in my brain, in this very moment, it would win. Yeah, check it out. EO.
You know, already a movie has been mentioned that's on my list coming up, and a movie has been mentioned that's kind of on my list.
Kind of on your list?
Kind of on. So we have 1.5. But well, you know, who knows? My number 593 is Melancholia, which is a movie that recently got recommended to Kyle.
Yeah.
It's a Lars Van Trier movie that's super interesting. I mean, it's Kirsten Dunst. It's kind of two stories in one. You know, it's this like really lavish wedding, and then someone dealing with this anxiety of impending doom because this planet called Melancholia is about to crash into Earth. And so it just kind of juxtaposes those two stories together, and then they combine at the end. And it's really just kind of beautiful and enigmatic and interesting. And yeah, I think it's super worth watching. So it's called Melancholia from 2011. That's my 593.
Is it coincidence that this planet is called Melancholia, or was it named that because it's crashing into Earth?
So, I mean, this movie is, I wouldn't say is like ultra realistic.
Okay.
You know, so think of it more as like poetic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Explain the whole thing to me before I watch it, so that way it makes it easier.
But I think most planets that we know about are called like USA 792, you know? So if it actually gets a real word name, I'm sure it's intentional.
Okay, cool. All right. My number 593 is a movie from 2011 called Moneyball. This movie stars Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill, and this is about the Oakland A's manager in the, I guess, early 2000s who took a new approach to drafting players. Instead of looking at skills or instead of looking at scouting, he was looking at more of a computer data analysis on what makes a good player versus a bad player. And it sort of changed the approach to staffing teams within Major League Baseball. This movie is a really interesting script, as well written, and I think great performances from Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill, and Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Is that movie written by the West Wing guy? I'm forgetting his name.
Aaron Sorkin.
Isn't that a Sorkin movie?
Let me tell you, it is written by. Yes, he is one of the writers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. My number 592 from 2015. A Western, Bone Tomahawk. I like this movie a lot. I like Westerns in general. I watch a lot of them. And it's great when they can stick out, right? Because they're all playing kind of with the same ingredients and the same pool. And when one figures out how to use those elements in interesting and unique ways, it grabs my attention. And that's definitely what Bone Tomahawk did. I would say it's a relatively violent to ultra violent movie. So if you're sensitive to those types of things, definitely read up on it or just take a pass. But if you want to see Matthew Fox's last great performance, check out Bone Tomahawk. He didn't die. He just stopped being in things I know of.
Did he have a first grade performance that I missed?
He was in Lost. He's great in Lost.
Great.
Sure.
He's in it. Yeah.
Yeah. How about not Ridge Racer. What's the Speed Racer?
Speed Racer. No, missed that one.
Well, he's amazing in that too.
All right.
My number 592 is called Panther Panchali and Panchali, and it is
Elijah 4.
It's from 1955, and it is maybe one of the most famous early Indian films. It's actually the first in a trilogy of films by Satyajit Ray is the director. And this movie is so great. If you are a fan of kind of those movies that follow around like a young kid and like all of the things happening around him, and he's kind of the center point, but you get like a lot of like stuff about the village and the people and his family and all that kind of stuff around him. This is one of those movies, and it's really great. And the kid's named Apu, and he has his family and everything that's going on with them, and like the struggles and the mischief and all that kind of stuff. It's a really fun movie, and it's definitely one of the most like seminal Indian films. So Panther Panchali from 1955.
That's definitely a list movie. It's been on my watch list for a long time.
I recommend it.
I need to get around to it. Yeah, well, especially if it's $5.95. That's a strong recommendation right there.
Yeah.
Or $5.92, I should say.
$5.92.
Yeah. My $5.92 is a 2010 movie, so far all from this century, Winter's Bone. This is starring Jennifer Lawrence and John Hawkes, amongst others. In this movie, Jennifer Lawrence plays a girl living in the Ozarks. She's trying to track down her father, and as she's doing so, she is learning secrets about her family and about the community in general. And it's I would say it's a challenging movie in the sense that it's just a very bleak movie, both in actual presentation and in storyline. But it's a great Jennifer Lawrence performance. Definitely broke her out and definitely made her more popular than Margot Robbie during this era.
Great movie.
Oh, hands down.
Great movie.
Hands down.
Yep.
My number 591 is another recent movie, 2022 again. This is The Sea Beast, which is an animated movie.
Oh, you saw this?
Yeah, I saw Sea Beast. This is great. I think this is an underappreciated animated film. It's a Netflix movie, so it never came out in movie theaters, but it played just fine on the home screen. And yeah, it's lots of fun. It's a pirate adventure mixed with giant seafaring monsters. And I found the script snappy and fun to watch. And the adventure at the high seas entertaining. My number 591.
Nice. My 591, if you're a fan of punctuation and you hate capitalization, then you should see If ... It might be the only movie with a 4 ellipses in it.
Yeah, that's wrong.
And it's a lowercase I, so it's IF ... minus a dot. And this is from 1968, directed by Lindsay Anderson, and it stars Malcolm McDowell, a very young Malcolm McDowell. And have either of you seen this?
No.
It's great because they play like kids in a boarding school, like a British boarding school, and they it's kind of oppressive, and so then they start rebelling, and they put on a full-on rebellion at the boarding school. And it also has like some surrealist things going on, but if you're a fan of Malcolm McDowell, which I think he's super interesting actor, and then you get to see, it's kind of like satire. It's like it makes this boarding school like a microcosm for oppressive society or institutions in general. And then they rebel and things get crazy. It's really off the wall. But it's called If ...
Oh, that's me. Sorry. 591. My 591 is a 2021 movie called Spencer, directed by Pablo Larraín, starring Kristen Stewart. This is a movie about Princess Diana, specifically the weekend or around the period that she decides that her marriage with Prince Charles is no longer working. And its movie kind of follows her around during this weekend as she is wrestling with being in the royalty with the royal family, with being as famous as she is, and also having her own mental health struggles. It's a great performance from Kristen Stewart. And I think Pablo Larraín does an interesting aspect of filming this movie like a horror film. So even though there's no horror events happening, the music, the filmmaking style, the reactions to certain things that happen feel like you're watching a horror movie at times. It's pretty great.
Speaking of horror, my number 590 is from 2020. It's a little known micro budget film titled She Dies Tomorrow, which is a movie I really need to rewatch. Like, I don't know why I've been sleeping on the rewatch on this one, because I liked the first watch quite a bit. And not only that, but this one of those movies that has a concept that maybe you can get even more out of it the second time you watch it. It's not even a twist. It's just the way the movie presents information as the movie plays out. And Zach, do you remember that movie, the zombie movie, where there's like a word that people keep saying and that's like the virus itself type of thing?
Yeah, the radio show one?
Yes.
Was that Pontypool?
Pontypool?
Pontypool. She Dies Tomorrow is like the version of that you'll like.
I liked Pontypool.
I know, but you'll really like She Dies Tomorrow. and it was made for almost nothing. And so if you want to be reminded that not every movie has to be Endgame to really capture your attention, pop in She Dies Tomorrow. It's a good one.
It has a 1.8 out of 5 on Google.
Ooh, Google.
Brutal.
Google
What do the
is my
critics
go-to
say,
rating
though? I bet it's a
service.
highly rated critics movie.
I'll go to Rotten Tomatoes. 84% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Totally makes sense. Why
That's really
normies
funny.
would not like She Dies Tomorrow.
Okay, my 590 is a documentary. Finally, we have a documentary. It's called Social Animals from 2018. Now, it just so happens there's also a narrative film from 2018 called Social Animals. This is not that. So this is the documentary of the same name from the same year, and it is not the same movie. And this documentary is about social media and how it affects people. And it follows around 3 teenagers. One is a photographer that like does increasingly more daring stuff in order to get the shot. One is an aspiring like influencer model. And one is a lonely girl in the Midwest. And I find this movie super interesting. I think it's one of the best engagements with social media besides 8th Grade, which is a fantastic movie. And it's a super easy to watch documentary, has a lot of, insights to say about social media and its effect on high schoolers, and I like it a lot. But I have not seen the narrative movie Social Animals from 2018 that has nothing to do with this movie. So again, the documentary, my 590.
Well, my 590 is 2018 Social Animals.
The narrative.
The narrative, yes.
Good,
Not the
good,
documentary.
good.
No, my 590 is a 2009 movie called Triangle. This is I would say maybe a low budget horror movie. It's about a group of friends who are on a sailboat that gets lost at sea, and a mysterious cruise ship rescues them. And when they get on the cruise ship, it seems to be empty. And then they find that there is a masked killer on this cruise ship who is slowly dispatching each friend. So it seems like a rather standard horror movie, but there is a puzzle box plot device that this movie introduces that I really enjoyed, and I think elevated this above what was a lot of low-budget horror movies are being cranked out during this era. So I think it's better than your average movie horror of this era, and I really enjoyed it.
Love that movie.
Yeah, I watched it because of the podcast. Definitely, I think maybe both of you or James recommended this to me, but
Don't know. My number 589 is from 1999. It's Sofia Coppola's debut film, The Virgin Suicides, which has a great cast. Kirsten Dunst, Josh Hartnett, James Woods, Kathleen Turner, Hayden Christensen. I don't even remember him being in this. Danny DeVito's in this. Don't remember that either. I need to rewatch The Virgin Suicides. That's great.
You sound like the guy that's like the 60 songs that explain the 90s.
It's the story of like 5 homeschooled sisters and like the guys in the neighborhood who are kind of obsessed with meeting them, getting with them romantically, and they live very sheltered lives, and so it's their interactions for better or for worse. It's a good one, and it set the tone for Sofia Coppola's career.
Nice. My 589 is from 1925. It's a silent film called The Big Parade. And this is a World War I film made just, 7 years after the end of World War I. And it's great. It follows a guy who enlists and then he falls in love with a French girl and lives through the horrors of war, kind of a thing. And it's just a really great war movie. And you normally don't turn to the silent films for this, but it's so fresh to when World War I had actually happened. And it's got a lot of really great, like, outdoor, huge imagery. And it's it's a great war film. And I like it. It's called The Big Parade.
Nice. My 589 is definitely a forgotten film from this year, but I like it, and is 2005's The Three Burials of Melquiades Estrada. This movie is both starring and directed by Tommy Lee Jones, as well as Barry Pepper. In this movie, Barry Pepper plays a border patrol officer who wrongfully kills a ranch hand named Melquiades Estrada. Tommy Lee Jones is friends with this ranch hand, but also promised that he would bury his friend in Mexico if he ever was to die. So this movie is about these two people, Tommy Lee Jones and Barry Pepper, taking this body, Melquiades Estrada, and trying to bury him in Mexico. It is, I don't know, it's just a really interesting story. And for Tommy Lee Jones, who's not a well-known director, or he's not known for his directing, I thought it's a pretty well-directed movie. So if you're kind of looking for a under-the-radar movie, easy watch, this is definitely one to check out.
That was under consideration for my 501 to 600 for sure. It was in the mix. I don't think it made it, but it was very close for sure. That's a good one. My 588 did make my list. It's from 2021. The animated movie, The Mitchells versus the Machines. Is this another Netflix movie? I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is from the same studio who did the Spider-Man movies. It's a 3D computer generated movie featuring the writing talents of Lord and Miller, I believe. Maybe they're just producers.
They're producers, but it's within their studio.
It feels like a Lord and Miller movie in the best kind of ways. And I liked the unique art style and the fun the movie presented. Another one I need to rewatch. I've only seen it once, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. And it made an impression enough to make my list today.
Nice. Well, my 588 is Star Trek Into Darkness from 2013.
Oh, so long ago. Crazy that it was 10 years ago.
Right? And they stopped making these. But it's the 12th installment in the Star Trek film franchise. And I like this one a lot. I think this was really good. The only of the reboot Star Treks that I didn't like was the last one, but I thought this one was great. It's got the same plot as Wrath of Khan in kind of a way. So
they keep talking about bringing it back.
They should.
The Starship may have sailed on that one.
The fanboy news sites always ask Chris Pine about it, stuff like that.
Where's our Quentin Tarantino Star Trek movie? That's what I want to know.
I'll pass on that one.
My 588, 2007. Let's keep this 21st century streak going. Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. This is directed by Sidney Lumet. This might be his last movie he directed? ? This stars Philip Seymour Hoffman and Ethan Hawke as two brothers who plan a robbery of their parents' jewelry store and it does not quite go according to plan. And this movie is about them dealing with the fallout of that robbery. It is told non-chronologically, which I found very interesting. So you're seeing you're seeing the same event from different perspectives, and you really need to piece together what's happening as the viewer. It's not always telling you whose perspective you're seeing things from at first. And this movie has a fascinating family dynamic between Philip Seymour Hoffman, Ethan Hawke, and the rest of the family. It is it's good. It's good. It's 588.
Nice. My number 587 is from the year 2000. It's Ginger Snaps, which is great. It's a Canadian movie. It's a small budget werewolf movie about two girls, and it's kind of like a werewolf / revenge film. And it's got a great central performance from Catherine Isabelle, who went on to make two more of these. There's a Ginger Snaps 2 and Ginger Snaps 3 Unleashed, I think is the last one. Yeah, I don't know what I could say about this that would make people want to watch it. I found it to be really fun in kind of a Buffy the Vampire kind of way, but like a little more serious. In that, like, it's a genre film, female central character, not your typical damsel in distress type horror movie, or like a Scream Queen type horror movie. And or like May. If you like the movie May, you should definitely check out Ginger Snaps. May being a twist on the Frankenstein story. This is a twist on what did I say? Wolverine, not Wolverines. Ugh, I just lost the phrase.
Werewolves?
Wolves. Yeah.
Werewolves. Yeah. Check it out if you like Canadian werewolf movies. Ginger Snaps.
That is a favorite genre of mine. So
yeah. My 587 is called Wings of Desire. This is a 1987 fantasy film by Wim Wenders. It's a German movie in black and white, starring Peter Falk as playing himself. And it's about two angels that kind of like quietly move through a city in Germany, just observing humanity. And one of them falls in love with a woman. She's a trapeze artist. And he wants to become human in order to be with her. This is the movie that was remade into City of Angels with Meg Ryan and Nicolas Cage. And it's great. It's really good. And if you like City of Angels, but you want something a little bit more introspective, Wings of Desire is the way to go.
It is another list movie I need to watch. I did not realize that City of Angels is a remake of that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, spoiler. Thanks. My number 587 is a 2021 movie. This is called Pig, starring Nicolas Cage. He plays a truffle hunter, a loner who lives out in the woods. His prize winning, or maybe not his prize winning, but his prize possession, this truffle hunting pig, is stolen from him. So he goes on what seems to be a John Wickian plot to recover this pig, but this movie kind of subverts the John Wick, single most deadly man with a mission plot in, I think, not humorous ways, but definitely in interesting ways. He enters this whole chef underground. And then this movie really also is commentary on chef culture in general. I think it's a strong performance from Nicolas Cage. Obviously, he's become a bit of a punchline in the last 15 years, but this shows that he still can actually act and bring it when he finds the right material.
Agreed. My number 586 is from 2021. It's another Western, this one titled Old Henry. Really surprised by this one. It's a small story about a older gentleman who lives out on the prairie and just wants to be left alone. And through some inciting circumstances, he draws the ire of some local ruffians and protects himself and others. And it's great in like a traditional Western kind of way, with a little bit of a twist in the plot. The storytelling is like straight Western, but the plot has a great little twist to it towards the ending. Stars Tim Blake Nelson as the titular Old Henry, and has a lot of Stephen Dorff in it. So if it's been a while, maybe since Blade era, since you've seen good Stephen Dorff, check out Old Henry.
Nice. Okay, my number 586 is Strangers on a Train. This is a Hitchcock thriller from 1951. And yeah, this movie is great. Two guys meet on a train. They agree to exchange murders so that it can't be like tied back to them, right? I'll kill your guy, you kill my guy. No one will know what happened, kind of a thing. It's a great Hitchcock film. Yeah, it's Strangers on a Train.
I highly recommend Strangers on a Train. The especially I can't remember. There's like the tennis player, and then there's the guy he meets. And the guy he meets is a great character, great performance. I can't remember the actor or anything like that, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
My number 586 is The Curious Case of Benjamin Button from 2008, directed by David Fincher, starring Brad Pitt and Cate Blanchett. This is the movie where Brad Pitt is aging in reverse. He starts as a old man baby and slowly appears younger as he ages. And then Cate Blanchett is sort of the love of his life that they meet. And what really enthralled me about this movie is just the performances from the two leads, because they're playing characters over decades who keep meeting each other, who keep rekindling this love and this friendship. And they both play it so well that if there's any reason to see this movie, it's to watch those two play off each other.
My number 585 is a documentary from 2002. It's Lost in La Mancha, which I believe we've talked about before in a previous, I think we did a top 11 to 20 of our favorite documentaries. I think it fell in that episode. Do you remember that, Zach? That was many years ago. But this is a great one about the making of a movie. It's a documentary about the making of a movie that was never released, meaning like the movie fell apart during production. The movie was The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, which was eventually produced and directed by the same director that's in this documentary years later. But that movie, worth a watch maybe once. This one is like way better than the final product, I would say. Like if you just want to watch a movie about the worst thing that could possibly happen during the production of a movie, or the worst things, multiple things that might happen to a production, and you like real life drama, check out Lost in La Mancha.
Nice. Well, my number 585 is Half Nelson from 2006. Have you guys seen Half Nelson?
Yes.
I don't know. It's the Ryan Gosling teacher movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I stopped watching this after 45 minutes. I definitely 45 minute rule this movie.
You did? Okay,
Yep.
so you have not seen this movie. Gotcha.
I've seen enough.
Yep.
Have
No,
you,
you haven't, because the movie's great. And it's about a teacher that kind of befriends one of his students outside of school. And it's kind of like that taboo of like breaking the teacher-student bond and becoming involved in their actual life. There's nothing scandalous in it about it. It's just like, yeah, it's, he does drugs, I guess. So like for a student to know that he does drugs is probably an issue. But it's a great, just little small drama, the kind of movie that's not really made a ton anymore. And I think Ryan Gosling's great in it. To be honest, I kind of think that I've liked every Ryan Gosling film I've seen. So he's just a really good actor. But Half Nelson, it's a good little character study with a great child actress. So.
Yeah. All right. Not going to see that again, so I'll take your words for it.
Well, you've never seen it, so.
My 585 is a 2011 French film called The Intouchables, or in French, Intouchables, if you prefer that. This is actually based on a true story about a young man who is from the rougher parts of Paris, I believe. And I think he commits some crimes, has to do some community service. So he helps a quadriplegic man who is in a wheelchair, and essentially becomes like not his servant, but sort of his day-to-day helper. they come from two different sides of the tracks. One coming from really rough neighborhood, one who's more aristocratic and rich, but they learn from each other. And it seems like this movie would be really sappy based on like how I'm describing it. Like, two people from different worlds learn from each other, but it's really presented in a warming and truthful way that I think it cuts through any of what could be the sappy message just based on two performances from both of these actors. This movie was remade with Kevin Hart and Breaking Bad. What's his name? I can't think of his name right now.
Aaron Paul?
No, the other guy from Breaking Bad.
Bryan Cranston?
Bryan Cranston, thank you. A couple of years ago, but I think that movie got pretty bad reviews because it laid into maybe more of the sappiness of the story.
Speaking of sappy stories, my number 584, Revenge of the Nerds from 1984. Not sappy at all, actually.
That movie has not aged well.
I'm sure it hasn't.
You think?
It's been a while since I've seen it. I'm sure it's very not politically correct compared to today. Because even back then, It was kind of pushing the buttons.
Yeah.
And so today, I'm sure it would really be pushing the buttons. But again, this is the push and pull that happens in James's brain. Is like this was kind of a movie I wasn't supposed to be watching when I was a kid, and yet I saw this a lot because it was on HBO over and over and over again. This was like just constantly in their rotation, right there at like 2:00 in the afternoon. There it is, Revenge of the Nerds in all its glory. And I watched and watched and watched it and have a lot of nostalgic feels for it, for better or for worse. I don't feel guilty about keeping it on my list. 584.
Well, my 584 is very different. Well, maybe not. It's called Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. It is a musical from 1954. And essentially what the plot is a guy gets married, and then his wife, Millie, finds out that he has 6 brothers that are all unmarried and like bachelors and, rude and, that kind of thing. And so she wants to like teach them how to like be good husband material and have manners and things like that. But instead they are inspired by the Roman story of like kidnapping the Sabine women. And so they just kidnap 6 women from the local village and hilarity ensues. And so it's a musical. It's just a very fun, bright, happy kind of movie with some catchy songs, and I like it a lot. So 7 Brides for 7 Brothers.
Nice. My 584 is a 2013 movie called American Hustle, directed by David O. Russell. This is a period piece con man movie. It's got a great cast. If you're going to watch this movie, it's because of the script and the cast. But I guess why you probably watch most movies, but for sure, this one is one to watch. Christian Bale, Bradley Cooper, Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner, Jennifer Lawrence at the height of her popularity. No Margot Robbie to be seen in this movie. Other people are in it. It's his, I think, of the later era David O. Russell movies, one of his better ones. Worth checking out.
Nice. My number 583 is from 1969. Probably another movie that didn't age perfectly. On Her Majesty's Secret Service, the Bond film.
Oh, it's a good one.
It's a good one, but I'm sure there's that was back when Bond was a different guy, I would say. Yeah, so this was the first George Lazenby movie, I think as the follow-up to Sean Connery's version of James Bond. And it changes it just enough to be interesting. This one, being a late 60s movie, had some of that 60s-ness that was eventually parodied to the nth degree by Austin Powers, amongst others. And I still think this movie kind of survives some of those comparisons to the parodies. I think it still works as like an action adventure movie, even though it was made quite a long time ago. And I enjoy it. Probably short of the recent James Bond incarnation, one of my favorites of the older ones. 583.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the better classic Bonds. I'll agree there.
Fun. Okay, my 583 is called Spring, Summer, Fall, Winter, ... and Spring. And this is a South Korean film And it is so beautiful and just like gorgeous and thought-provoking. It basically tells the story of this young monk who lives on a floating house on a lake, and he lives his whole life in this house. And you see the different stages of his life that they correspond with like the seasons. So spring is when he's young, summer he's getting older, fall, winter he's getting old. And you see these different moments of his life and how the choices he makes, how it affects him, how it affects the rest of his life. And it looks beautiful. It's the message is really wonderful, and it's just a great movie. And if you like South Korean films, this is definitely one to catch out.
Cool. My number 583 is X-Men: Days of Future Past from 2014. This is the last X movie I've watched. So I don't know if any ones or other ones are good, but I can say this is the last good one. This movie is sort of the mashup between your 2000s era X-Men with like Patrick Stewart and James Marsden, Ian McKellen, meeting your 2010s X-Men with the First Class, which is like James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender. And it's about it's a time travel movie about these two different eras of X-Men teaming up together to change the past to protect the future. It's very comic booky, but I think if you like X-Men, you like sort of that run of Fox, this one's definitely worth checking out if you haven't seen it yet. It's good.
One of the few times they did a comic book story almost perfectly, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely from the comics.
Days of Future Past.
Yep. Yeah.
And kind of sets the stage for what other comic book movies did with mixing casts from different generations.
Right.
They pulled it off there. I think without them doing that, maybe they wouldn't have been quite so confident with like Spider-Man recently and stuff like that.
It's kind of multiverse-y without being multiverse. It's multi-timeline, but it feels like a multiverse movie in a sense.
Right. My number 582 is from 2002. It's 8 Mile. Eminem.
Nice.
AKA Rabbit, right? Wasn't that his name in 8 Mile?
Yeah.
Was it
Yes.
DJ Rabbit or just Rabbit?
I think it was B Rabbit or something like that.
Yeah, B Rabbit. Yeah, so this is loosely based on Eminem's upbringing and rise to stardom. And to my knowledge, it's the only movie he's starred in. And turns out it's pretty good. He's good at playing himself, I would say. Obviously, the song goes along with this one and burned into most people's brains who listened to top 40 music at the time. Move Yourself. And
Lose Yourself.
Lose Yourself. What did I say? Move Yourself?
Move Yourself.
Whatever.
Oh, man.
And a movie that when I really think about it, what I really feel about this movie is that I miss Brittany Murphy. She's really good in this movie. It's sad that she died so young. And this was like, to me, obviously Eminem's the star of this movie, but I think of it as a Brittany Murphy movie for some reason in my brain.
Interesting. Okay. My number 582 is a movie James recommended to me. It's called Better Luck Tomorrow from 2002. And this is directed by Justin Lin. And it's great. It follows like a group of like Southern California Asian teenagers. And, at first you kind of think that they're these like kind of model, high schoolers. And then you realize they're involved in like petty crime and stuff like that. And it goes from there. Things get more serious, but it's just it's really good. And you get the feeling, it feels so like like lightning in a bottle a little bit. Like it shouldn't be as good as it is, but it just all works together and it makes for a really good film. So Better Luck Tomorrow is kind of like that hidden gem that James was able to point out to me.
I started watching that movie on the plane ride to leave Georgia when I came to see you guys.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the one that we had to deplane because of mechanical issues and spent the next 6 hours in the airport. So never got around to finishing it.
Oh, but you've seen it. You're fine. You don't need to keep going.
No, I only saw the first 20 minutes, so I haven't seen 45 of it yet. So I really can't judge it yet. But
20 more minutes and you're done.
Well, you tell the pilot that. All right. My number 582 is a movie from 2008. This is actually a documentary I talked about on our Forgotten Films of 2008 called Anvil, ! The story of Anvil. This is a documentary following up with the band Anvil as they're trying to make a comeback. And I'm going to say, listen to our Forgotten Films of 2008 episode if you want to learn more. We only did that a couple weeks ago.
My number 581 is 300 from 2006. A lot of numbers there. This is Zack Snyder's version of George Miller's graphic novel. And is it all Flash over substance? Pretty much, but the Flash is good. I enjoy it. Maybe my favorite Zack Snyder movie? Possibly. 300. Nah, Sin City is above this.
Okay.
What, he didn't direct Sin City. I'm confusing Frank Miller with Zack Snyder.
Frank Miller didn't direct Sin City.
Favorite Frank Miller is Sin City. Favorite Zack Snyder adaptation of a Frank Miller, 300. That's my final answer. Go ahead, Zach.
Zach, just let him talk through it. He'll figure it out. He'll get there.
Okay, my 581 is another movie that I don't think Kyle likes. It's called 30 Minutes or Less. This is a
45 minute that rule also.
so you haven't seen this one either.
It
Okay,
was
so this is well, you wouldn't know. This is a movie. It stars Jesse Eisenberg, Danny McBride, and Aziz Ansari, Nick Swartzen, Michael Pena. It's a black comedy. Let's see. Jesse Eisenberg plays a pizza boy, and he gets kidnapped by two guys that say you have to go rob a bank, otherwise we're gonna blow you up. They like attach a bomb to him, and then it's like what happens from that premise. And I just found this super, super funny. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars.
Okay.
So it's called 30 Minutes or Less.
In Kyle's defense, I gave it.
Kyle called it 45 minutes or less.
In Kyle's defense, I gave it 2 stars.
Yeah. So 2 quick points. Does the
James,
funny
after watching how many minutes of the film?
All of it.
Oh, nice.
Does the comedy start in the second half of the movie? Did I just miss the funny parts?
It builds.
It builds. Okay.
Yeah.
It also it's based on a rather tragic true story about a pizza delivery guy who had claimed a bomb, had a bomb attached to his neck, claimed he had to rob banks, and then the bomb killed him as he was surrounded by police thinking he was a terrorist. So I don't know. I think maybe just because I knew the actual story, I didn't want to see the funny version of it.
Well, I did not know the actual story. And, sometimes the way we deal with grief is to find the humor in life. So
Okay.
30 minutes or less, my 581.
It's this comedy about this plane that so. All right.
Wow.
We are going to end the 21st century streak with my 581. We are finally back at the 20th century. In fact, we're going to be deep in the 20th century. This is 1962's To Kill a Mockingbird. This is based on the Harper Lee novel of the same name. The book is great. The movie is great. Gregory Peck plays Atticus Finch. He's great. And I think you should see it if you like the book. Or if you haven't seen the book, read the book, see the movie, and read the book. They're both equally great.
My number 580 won an Academy Award for Best Picture. It's 1992's Unforgiven. Another Western. A good one, obviously. Won other awards too. Did you guys know Gene Hackman won Best Actor for Unforgiven?
Actor, not supporting? He was.
It might have been supporting.
Okay.
Yeah. It was supporting. You're right. I mean, just the fact that Gene Hackman won an Academy Award, and I didn't think he was that type of actor, but I guess he was. Not much to say about Unforgiven. I think most people who are into Westerns have probably seen this because it's considered a classic, a modern classic of the genre. My number 580.
Nice. My number 580 is The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford from 2007. And this is the Brad Pitt, Casey Affleck movie where it's roughly a biopic of Jesse James. And it follows the guy that shot him. And it's a Western, and it's shot very meditatively. It's kind of slow cinema, but it's I really enjoyed it. I think it's really great, and both these guys as Western cowboys, I thought was really fun, and yeah, I like it a lot.
Well, guys, we have a thematic bingo here because my 580 is also a Western.
See?
So that's pretty great. This
See?
is 2021's The Harder They Fall. This is a revenge Western starring Jonathan Majors, Idris Elba, Regina King, Zazie Beetz, Delroy Lindo, Lakeith Stanfield. It goes on. So this is a Western told with a predominantly black cast. And although the plot is kind of standard revenge about, a boy's parents are killed by the local outlaw. He grows up to then try and track down the outlaw and exact his revenge. The movie is just presented much differently than you would a standard Western. Most Westerns are dusty and kind of worn in, and this movie is colorful. The costumes are over the top. The cities are beautiful, and it's just a different take on the Western genre that I really enjoyed.
Zach, we
Yeah.
were one away to an actual bingo. My 579, the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert
James. That's crazy.
Ford. One away.
One away.
Out of 4,000 plus movies, one away from picking the exact same number.
Well, we did get the same movie in our list, which is fantastic. But
right.
one away.
And
That's
we
amazing.
like it about the exact same amount.
Yes, we do. Yeah. You a little bit more. You like it a little bit more than me.
I like it slightly more. Yep.
Yeah.
I don't have much to add other than don't be scared of that runtime. Just watch it in pieces. It's fine. Just get it watched.
5 easy pieces. That's fine. My 579 is also the assassination of Jesse James with the coward Robert Ford. I have it twice on my list. No, it's Glass Onion from 2022.
Nice.
I thought this was well made. I liked that the story starts over again and halfway through. I thought that was really clever. So
my 579 is a 1994 film called Three Colors: Red. It's French, so Trois Couleurs Rouge for you Francophiles. This movie stars no one you're gonna recognize. I was thinking it was the one from Blue, who actually is a recognized name. But this is about so this is the third movie in the Three Colors trilogy. These are 3 movies that are loosely connected to each other, directed by Krzysztof Kieslowski. And this is a movie about a woman who befriends her neighbor, who's a judge. They strike up a conversational relationship, nothing romantic. But then she learns that he is listening in on his neighbor's phone conversations, and they start debating the ethics of spying on people. This is a very talky movie, but it is some fascinating conversations between these two people. It is in French. It is subtitled. And I would recommend watching the previous ones, Blue and White, before this one, because all 3 of them are loosely connected. And this one does close out the trilogy.
cool. My 578 is going to be coming after James.
My 578 is from 2006. It's The Prestige, which I'm sure pretty much everybody's watched. I'm sure some people think it's criminally high on this list.
A little, yeah.
But
Low?
I don't know. Well,
Low,
high meaning in the high numbers, not low in the low numbers. Whatever. I mean, again, 4-star movie for me. I like The Prestige, but I like some of his others better. And I certainly like every movie from 577 up better.
Certainly. My 578 is called Lover's Rock. It is a 2020 film directed by Steve McQueen. It's part of his Small Acts anthology thing that he did. And this was my favorite of the bunch. And it kind of follows this reggae party at a house. And it's just gives such a great sense of time and place. It's a window into a world that I was not alive for, I was not a part of, and it just it creates that sense of belonging in that particular moment of history in that house super well. It's a great, just kind of chill hangout movie. Lovers Rock from 2020.
My 578 is Haywire from 2011. This is directed by Steven Soderbergh. Has a great cast: Gina Carano, Michael Fassbender, Ewan McGregor, Bill Paxton, Channing Tatum, Antonio Banderas, Michael Douglas, etc. This is a starring vehicle for Gina Carano. She used to be a UFC fighter or a mixed martial artist and turned that into a action career. In this movie, she plays a government operative spy who gets double-crossed and then has to learn the truth and fight her way through various assassins to keep herself alive. It's worth watching because of the action directing. Gina Carano is a very skilled martial artist that translates into her on-screen fights. Steven Soderbergh is a great director, so that's all there. You don't get past the fact that Gina Carano is kind of canceled recently, so if you're not a fan of her, she is a big part of this movie. But if you can get past that and you like some good action thriller, this is worth checking out.
I like that movie. Number 577, another movie I like from 2019, Uncut Gems. Clearly better than Christopher Nolan's movie, The Prestige. Yeah, great movie, directed by the Safdie brothers, starring Adam Sandler, about a jeweler in New York who owes some money because he likes to gamble and live his life on the edge from a gambling perspective. So it's a good one. It's a tense thriller. And if you're into those, you've probably seen it. But if you haven't, check it out.
Well, my number 577 is Searching from 2018. This is the movie with John Cho that takes place completely on screens. So everything is on a computer screen or smartphone or something like that. And, it's very gimmicky from that perspective, but it's super well done. And it actually tells like a good story. It unfolded well. It doesn't feel like a limitation. It feels like an exploration. And I thought it was a good movie, despite it's a thriller, like a woman's kidnapped and her father's trying to figure out where she is. It's a good movie and it's a interesting conceit. And so Searching from 2018. I haven't seen the like spiritual sequel to it. I don't even know what it's called, but is that any good, James?
It's not as good as Searching.
Okay. What's it called?
It does follow the same sequence. It's like
It's
Missing.
Yeah.
Missing.
Okay.
My 577 is a movie from 2004 called Layer Cake. This is a Daniel Craig movie pre-Bond. It's kind of Guy Ritchie-ish in both its presentation and its plotting. It's directed by Matthew Vaughn. It's about a drug deal that goes wrong, and Daniel Craig, who kind of lives in this criminal underworld, has to navigate the world to keep himself alive and come out on top of these mafia bosses. It's got some good driving scenes, some good action scenes, and again, it's a pre-Bond Daniel Craig. It's worth checking out for that.
My number 576 is from 1968. It's Bullitt. Bullitt. This is a Steve McQueen cop action movie, I would say, that kind of surprised me. I watched it in recent years, blind bought it on Blu-ray, watched it, enjoyed it far more than I thought I would. It kind of felt like this movie that lived out here that I would see like at rental stores and stuff like that for my entire life. I ignored it, thought it was like lesser James Bond type of thing. And then when I actually saw it, I was like, this is actually kind of cool. Has a great car chase through the streets of San Francisco. And in my brain, I think the final scenes is like a foot chase through an airport, which was also awesome. Yeah. I mean, for a movie that's 40, nearly 50 years old, the action in this held up very well. And that's why it's landed on my list.
Okay. My 576 is called Rome Open City from 1945.
Yeah.
It's directed by Roberto Rossellini, and it takes place in the Italian occupation during World War II. And It's one of the most influential Italian neorealism films, and it's great. It follows, different resistance leaders during World War II and kind of the human aspect and the tragedies that they faced going through that occupation. This movie was incredibly influential. At the same time, Hollywood's doing like all studio films that take place inside, big warehouses. And Italian neorealism is like, no, let's go outside and film in actual locations where people are acting authentically and not like, acting like they're on a stage play. And this, it changed. This kind of idea changed movies everywhere. And Rome Open City is super gripping and fun to watch, and not fun, but like engaging, and it's really good. So that's my number 576.
I generally don't care for Italian neorealism, and I liked this movie, so that should say something.
You liked the first 45 minutes.
No, I watched the whole thing because
but you wouldn't have if you wouldn't have if you didn't like the first 45 minutes. So it's really just the first 45 that matter to you.
You
already liked it at that point.
I do think no, that's not true. I do think there is something to be said about a movie engaging you right away, or at least engaging you within its first act. And I think it's fair to say that if a movie does not engage you within its first act, then either it's not going to get better in the second or third, or whatever's going to give you in the second and third is you're not going to enjoy anyway because you enjoy the first third. So
how would you know?
Yeah. But I've been surprised. I rewatched The Other Guys, which I gave a 45-minute ruled, and it got worse as it went on. So, things, it can be different for sure. So, mea culpa on my part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. My 576 is 2003's Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl. This is the Johnny Depp pirate movie. If you haven't seen it, get out of under the rock you're living in.
My 575 is Hoosiers from 1986. It's a basketball movie about a team of high school players who suck, and they get a coach played by the aforementioned Gene Hackman, who I didn't really mean to like slight with my.
You did though.
With he can't win an Oscar, or it's weird that he won an Oscar, because in fact he won 2 Oscars. He won that one for Best Supporting Actor, and he won a Best Actor award for The French Connection, which I believe was well deserved. So I take it all back. Gene Hackman is the best.
This is such a funny exercise that we're doing because we're just jumping around between such different movies.
It's really random.
Pirates of the Caribbean, Hoosiers, and now I'm going to talk about 2019's The Assistant, directed by Kitty Green, starring Julia Garner. And this is a movie about an intern at a Hollywood production company, and her boss is abusive in a Me Too kind of way. And it's a very like understated kind of like subtle film, but I thought it was really well acted, really well done. You never even see the boss. I think you just hear him. But I liked it a lot. So it's my number 575.
Well, I'm going to take us back 80 years to 1943 for my 575 with Alfred Hitchcock's Shadow of a Doubt. It's maybe not one of his most well-known movies, but definitely a good one. This movie is about a teenager living in the suburbs of California. Her name is Charlotte, goes by Charlie. She's kind of bored. Nothing ever happens in her life until one day her uncle, Charlie, who she's named after, returns. And she just, like, Charlie, her uncle, is her favorite relative. She's so excited that he's back at home. He's been gone for a while. However, she starts hearing rumors about what Charlie's been up to, why he's been gone. And she doesn't quite know if she should believe in them or not. And things get a little thrillery as things go on from there. So a good Hitchcock thriller. Joseph Cotten plays Uncle Charlie, and he's been in Citizen Kane, The Third Man, F for Fake, a lot of sort of classic Hollywood movies from the 40s and 50s.
Nice. My number 574 is Baby Teeth from 2019. I think this is a movie that I watched after we did our top lists of that year. and it probably would have made my top 20. It's really good. It's really sad. It's about a terminally ill teenager who meets a low-level drug dealer and kind of like is intrigued by him, and she kind of has nothing to lose, and like her parents are really involved in her life, and they're like whatever makes her happy type of thing. And so they kind of like adopt this low-level drug dealer who in a normal situation you would not want around your daughter, right? Your teenage daughter. And this movie kind of destroyed me in like all the best ways that like really emotional movies can pack a punch for, with whatever the terminology would be. And I enjoyed it. And if you like pure acting, you should check out Baby Teeth. Hard subject, but really, really well executed.
My number 574 is from 1925. It's called The Gold Rush. It is a Charlie Chaplin tramp movie. And it's him mining for gold. He's a prospector, and the situations that he gets in. And I think Charlie Chaplin as the tramp is really funny. I think this movie's really funny. And if you like Charlie Chaplin, you should definitely check out The Gold Rush.
My 574 is Kong Skull Island from 2017. This is a retelling of the classic King Kong story, but sort of through a Vietnam War lens. It takes place in either the late 60s or early 70s. There's definitely Vietnam War parallels as they're exploring Skull Island. Tom Hiddleston's in this movie, John Goodman, Brie Larson. And then I think a really fun performance from Samuel L. Jackson as sort of the general leading the mission who wants to accomplish a mission at any cost.
My number 573 is from 2007. It's Hot Fuzz, the Edgar Wright film starring Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, amongst others. And it's the second in the Cornetto trilogy of films, along with Shaun of the Dead and The World's End. And it's the second best in that trilogy, by far. By far the second best, I would say. It's a good one.
Nice. Okay, my 573 is Notorious from 1946. This is another Hitchcock film, and it stars Cary Grant. And you probably have seen this movie, and it's great.
There's a lot of Hitchcock on this episode so far.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun.
There'll be more.
Yeah. My number 573 is a 1976 movie called Murder by Death. This is a satire of the Agatha Christie big house murder mysteries. It is about 5 detectives who are brought together to a mansion to investigate a murder. But it kind of sends up the whole genre with there being trapdoors and, weird characters who come in and lots of false identities and plot twists. This movie has an amazing cast, though. You have Alec Guinness, David Niven, Maggie Smith, Peter Sellers, Peter Falk, and Eileen Brennan, as well as James Cromwell in his very first movie ever is in this. Each of those actors is playing a different style of detective. So one's doing like a Poirot, one's doing like a Miss Marple. So they're all like mixing up their detective styles. Some of the jokes have not aged well. So being from 1976 satire, kind of a warning there. But I thought this was pretty funny and definitely in the same vein as Clue. If you like Clue, I think you'd enjoy Murder by Death.
I've not seen it, but that's definitely on my list. My number 572 from 2009, Up in the Air, directed by Jason Reitman. This is a, corporate dramedy, maybe? I don't know how you'd classify this movie. Stars George Clooney, Vera Farmiga, Anna Kendrick. This is like one of the first movies I remember seeing Anna Kendrick in. And also a great supporting cast, including Sam Elliott, Danny McBride, Zach Galifianakis. A bunch of fun people in this movie. But it's about a guy who works in the industry that lays people off, like the company you engage if you are a company that wants to lay people off, which you can imagine might be a hard job to do day to day. And he kind of teaches his young protege how to manage the lifestyle in the the only way he knows how to manage it, which is not a very healthy way, I would say. And it's a good movie that's kind of fun and funny at times, but also sad and interesting. I don't know how else to describe it, other than it's a great mix. Up in the Air from 2009.
All right. My 572 is called The Secret in Their Eyes from 2009.
Yeah.
And this won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film that year. And it's a super interesting kind of mystery political movie. It's got a really cool one-er shot at a soccer stadium. And it's just, it's hard movie to explain why it's so compelling, but it's really good. So The Secret in Their Eyes. I think they remade it maybe in English.
They did. Yeah.
I have no desire to watch that, really.
How come I've never heard of this?
You should check it out.
How dare you,
yeah.
Zach? This sounds like right up my alley.
You would really like it, James.
It is all in Spanish. It is subtitled though. So
what are you saying?
I'm just saying, sometimes you talk about having to read a movie being a barrier to entry, and
I talk about it because everybody else thinks that. I watch subtitled stuff literally. If they're speaking English, I'm watching it subtitled. Okay. I watch subtitles 24/7.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, hearing English and reading the subtitles is a little different than hearing one language and reading the English subtitles. So.
I agree, but I bet I've seen more subtitled movies in other languages than you have, Kyle.
Well, yeah, you've seen more movies. We've had this conversation. You've seen more movies than I have, so
by
statistically,
percentage, by percentage, I've seen more.
All right, I'll have to dig into that data another time. Because
right.
I really want to talk about my 572, which is 2004's White Chicks, a movie we must discuss. This movie is directed by Keaton Ivory Wayans and starring Shawn Wayans and Marlon Wayans, so it's a Wayans production. In this movie, the Shawn and Marlon Wayans play FBI agents who go undercover as two white women in the Hamptons to thwart a kidnapper. So they're in whiteface. I thought this movie would be much more of a commentary on white versus black culture and experience, but it's really more just like a lot of jokes about Paris Hilton and socialites during the 2000s. So I think this movie was good, but it could have actually had more teeth to it. It's still funny though. Terry Crews is in it. He has a great side role. Oh. And of course, this movie is kind of like Some Like It Hot. The parallels between those two are incredible. So.
Oh, it's my turn.
It's your turn.
We're talking my next film titled Incendies, my number 571. Denis Villeneuve, great movie. It's a long one at 131 minutes. Not terribly long, but fairly
pretty
long.
Average.
Yes, recently brought up in our hard movies to watch list. I think it made Kyle's list, right? Incendies. Yep. And I would agree that it's a hard movie to watch, but a good one if you like dramas that span a lot of time, I would say. But I also think it's kind of not a feel-good movie, but one that has a good resolution. Is that spoiler?
It has closure.
Has closure.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Has closure.
Yeah, James, you should definitely see The Secret in Their Eyes.
Okay. Does it have closure?
No, I'm just saying like it belongs in the conversation with Incendies.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Not plot wise, but just like vibe.
Isn't it crazy that Incendies was 2010? Like Denis Villeneuve has packed them in since
had a
2010.
Crazy career the last 13 years. Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, my 570 is Hazard Balthazar.
571, Zach?
Okay. Well, this is my 570. So I'll talk about it in a second. But right now, my 571 is It Follows.
we can't get off track. It'll be bad news.
You're right. Yeah. Okay, It Follows is my official 571. This is a horror film. It's kind of like an indie horror film where you're just constantly being like stalked by a very slow entity that is going to kill you if it catches up with you. And then I think that like if you sleep with someone, it'll chase them until they kill them and then it'll kill you. And so people are just trying to escape this like very slow moving thing that is constantly going after them. And it's good. So my 571.
My 571 is West Side Story, not the 1960 version or 61 version, which is in my top 100, but the 2021 version directed by Steven Spielberg. I wasn't sure if I'd like this movie, and I did. So thank you, Mr. Spielberg.
My number 570 is The Neon Demon from 2016, directed by Nicholas Winding Refn, the director of Drive and Only God Forgives, and Bronson, which was another hard-to-watch movie, I believe, in the last episode.
It was.
And Neon Demon, I didn't find this movie hard to watch. I thought it was great. Stars Elle Fanning as like a young aspiring model who moves to Los Angeles and finds out that the model world in LA is just as weird and debaucherous as your worst conspiracy theorist thinks it is. I would say it's a weird movie. It's a strange one, but if you like Nicholas Winding Refn and you haven't checked this one out, don't delay. Do it today. Neon Demon.
Okay. Well, my previously mentioned Hazard Balthazar. And this is the movie that James's EO is kind of like a remake of.
Definitely a remake of.
Yeah, it's from 1966. It's directed by Robert Bresson. And it's basically the story of a donkey that keeps getting sold to different people. And so you see what his life is like through all these different random kind of owners and situations. And it's just a super simple but beautiful film. And I really, really like it a lot. So I think the name translates to Balthazar, which is the name of the donkey, at random.
All right.
None of this movie. I'll see it someday. My 570 is a 1999 movie called The Green Mile, based on the book by Stephen King. Movie stars Tom Hanks as a prison guard in the death row cell block, and Michael Clark Duncan plays a death row inmate who has the power to heal people. And Tom Hanks is trying to keep this man off of death row because he has such a miraculous gift. This is definitely a hard to watch movie at times. It's a challenging movie. It's long, but it's pretty great performances from Tom Hanks and Michael Clark Duncan.
Rest in peace.
Yes, rip Tom Hanks.
My number 569 is from 1964, The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, which is a movie that was recommended to me ad nauseum because I liked La La Land. Every time I mentioned La La Land to anybody, they were like, "Have you seen The Umbrellas of Cherbourg?" And I was like, "No." And then I got it on Criterion and I watched it, and it was 4 stars. It's a good movie. I think it was a little hyped for me. Like I was ready to like go full La La Land on this one, and instead I was like, okay, I understand the influence, but it's still the movie from the 60s. And it's a musical, which are things that I don't necessarily like typically. But the movement, the use of color, the simple story, those all kept me engaged, and all those combined gave me enough to chew on.
Nice. I like that movie a lot. My 569 is a movie that Kyle recommended to me. It's from 2000. It's called Sexy Beast. And this movie's a lot of fun. It's like a crime drama thriller, I guess, about a guy who, used to be a safe cracker, but he's out of the business now. He's retired. And then someone comes and he tries to drag him back in for one more heist, and he doesn't want to do it. And it's really good and stylized. It has a lot of style to it. So I liked it.
Yep. Ben Kingsley plays an absolute monster in that movie.
He does.
Like he's Gandhi,
He's psychopath.
and then he's a psychopath. You're right. Yep. All right, my number 569 is a 2022 movie called Women Talking. This movie is about a group. Oh, directed by Sarah Polley, not Sarah Paulson. This movie is about a group of women who live in a religious community, possibly Mennonite or Amish-ish in that sense. And they are unfortunately being subjugated to repeated sexual assaults by the men of the colony. And they meet to decide what to do. Do they leave? Do they stay? Do they fight? So this movie is just a series of conversations about these women trying to figure out what their future is going to be, considering that they also don't know a lot about the outside world. And there are some fascinating conversations, and it's a very timely movie too. Great cast: Rooney Mara, Claire Foy, Jessie Buckley. This is maybe the first Jessie Buckley movie I've seen that I enjoyed. So that says something.
You still haven't watched Wild Rose, though.
I haven't, and every time I go through my watch list, I'm like, oh yeah, this one that James recommended to me. So I just need to make the time to watch it.
It's a good. It's a date night movie. Next time you both are looking to watch a movie together, watch that.
All right, we'll do.
568 from 1984, The Killing Fields, which is a movie I watched a few years ago. A pre-pandemic movie in 2019. I don't know why that's a reference, but it's a movie about what do you call them? Not documentarians, journalists. Journalists during a war in Cambodia in the 70s, where a lot of people died, and kind of their time covering that war. Really well done. I believe we made a list about reporters or movies about reporters, and I don't remember if I watched this before that or if I watched it after, but this is a good one about reporters. Definitely about something that actually happened that I knew very little about, and still don't remember much about it. The actual act, but the movie was good.
Nice. My 568 is The Cranes Are Flying from 1957.
Oh yeah.
This is a World War II film about a couple that are in love, and then they get separated when one of them volunteers to enter the war and then goes MIA. And this movie is so interestingly shot. It's in black and white, but with these like really high contrast, wide angle lenses, and it's just every scene is visually compelling, and it's got a good kind of melodramatic story as well. So The Cranes Are Flying.
Zach, there was a run where you and I would watch a movie together and either talk on speakerphone or text each other while we watch it simultaneously.
And that was one of these.
We should bring that back. That was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's a little harder now with the families, but
you guys should do that and watch Still Alice.
I don't want to hear claim about Julianne Moore for 2 hours, though. All right. So we've gotten to the point of my list where these movies used to be in my top 500, but have been pushed out by new additions. So I will quickly say the number, the movie, and what position it's in, but then I'm going to talk about the new movie to the list that pushed it up. And I think, Zach, you do something very similar, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. So yeah, this is not my original idea. I am stealing this from Zach, but I think it's a great idea. So my 568 is The Wild Bunch, a Western that used to be my old 500. So the movie that pushed it out and that's new to my list is my new 490, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem from 2023. We reviewed this a couple episodes or several episodes ago. Really liked it. Thought it was a fresh take on the TMNT franchise. And check out that episode if you want to hear more about my thoughts on that.
My number 567 is from 1966. It's The Sand Pebbles, which is a war film that I believe Kyle told me to watch.
I did recommend this to you, yes.
Right. And I enjoyed it. I really don't remember much about it.
I can't remember anything.
But I will read my 1-sentence letterbox review. This is what I wrote. August 14th, 2020. I can honestly say that at every turn of a corner in this 3-hour film, I had no idea where it was going. End review. I liked it. And evidently it's unpredictable.
There you go. My 567 is The Producers from 1967. And it's a Mel Brooks movie where two guys realized they could make more money from a flop than a successful play. And so they try to make the worst musical they possibly could. They ended up calling it Sunshine for Hitler, and it was a surprise success. So it's a comedy. It has Gene Wilder and it's Nathan Lane, and it's amazing. It's not Nathan Lane.
Nice. Springtime for Hitler, I think, is the
What did I call it?
summertime for Hitler.
Oh, yeah, Springtime for Hitler.
Just one season off. Summertime is a famous song, so I'll excuse you on that one. All right, my 567 is The China Syndrome from 1979. This stars Jane Fonda and Michael Douglas. In this movie, Jane Fonda plays a reporter who witnesses an accident at a nuclear power plant, and she wants to publicize this incident because it seemed like it was pretty dangerous. However, there's a conspiracy that she gets wrapped up in to keep this a secret. It's called the China Syndrome because the idea is if a nuclear meltdown is so bad that the nuclear core would sink its way all the way through the earth to China. That's where the term comes from. And I would say this movie is Chernobyl-ish in its plotting or in its storytelling and themes. Not as hard to watch as Chernobyl, the TV show, but definitely about nuclear accidents and conspiracy.
My number 566 is from 2006. It's The Host from Bong Joon-ho, director of Snowpiercer and Parasite and Okja, amongst others. And this is a good one. And it's kind of the movie that started it all for me. Anyway, this is the first Bong Joon-ho movie I saw. And it's a monster movie that is great. It has kind of like suspect CG. I watched it relatively recently, and the monster doesn't completely hold up in The Host, but the style of filmmaking is evident here. And if you're a fan of his later films, then you should not be afraid of checking out his earliest film to cross the ocean, that being The Host.
Yeah, that's a fun one. My 566 is called Witness for the Prosecution from 1957. It's a Billy Wilder courtroom drama. And it's great. If you like courtroom dramas, this is like one of the best ones. Guys accused of murdering a widow to inherit her money. And then there's a surprise witness for the prosecution, which is his wife. There's just a lot of like twists and turns and unexpected revelations, and it's a good script, and it's a great movie.
Is it the Jimmy Stewart one, or is that a different courtroom movie?
No. This is like Marlene Dietrich and
okay, all right, yeah, I like that one. I was thinking whatever the Jimmy Stewart one was. I don't remember. All right, my 566 is True Romance, which is my old 499. So the movie that replaced it is my new 487, An American Werewolf in London from 1981, directed by John Landis. This is a werewolf movie, and I discussed this recently on a top 10 last 10. So go check out that episode to hear my thoughts on American Werewolf in London.
Nice. My number 565 is from 2016. It's Midnight Special, directed by Jeff Nichols, director of Mud and Take Shelter, other movies that I enjoy a lot from this director. And this is his take on a sci-fi movie, kind of what's the Spielberg movie with the aliens?
War of the Worlds.
Not E.T., not War of the Worlds. The other one.
Close Encounters?
Close Encounters. Kind of his version of Close Encounters on some level. But maybe smaller and a little more thrillerish than Close Encounters. I don't know. This is probably the closest to a mainstream film we've gotten from Jeff Nichols as well. And I think some people might be a little disappointed by the chill nature of the filmmaking throughout, even up to the last frame. But I enjoyed the take for sure. And that's why it's on my list.
Nice. My number 565 is Fitzcarraldo from 1982, directed by Werner Herzog. And this is one of his collaborations with Klaus Kinski. And it's about this guy named Fitzgerald. But his nickname is Fitzcarraldo. And he's in Peru. And his dream is to build an opera house in the middle of the Amazon rainforest. And so to finance his dream, he has to basically farm a bunch of rubber trees, but it's completely inaccessible to get there. And so he comes up with this plan to move a steamship over land in order to get to the rubber trees, and because they can't get there by water. And it's a crazy plan, right, to move a ship over land, over this big hill, in order to get to these rubber trees. And it kind of mirrors the craziness of the film itself, because they actually do just move the ship over the mountain for the movie. And so the craziness of like the story, they have to actually do for the production, and the whole thing is just a mess, and it's just a wild, chaotic movie, and it's great. And it's like a period piece from 2 decades ago. It's great. 2 centuries ago.
Is there a documentary about the making of this movie? Because I imagine that has to be as interesting as this movie itself. And I love this movie. It's a top. I don't think it's top 100. It might be top 200 for me.
Okay, I would imagine there is, or at least behind the scenes. I've seen like interviews and stuff with Werner Herzog from the set, so I imagine there's something.
I imagine every Werner Herzog Klaus Kinski movie is just a disaster behind the scenes.
Yeah, they're like stabbing each other and shooting each other. It's ridiculous.
Like arch enemies that work together.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, we're in 565, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my 565 is Bullet Train from 2022, directed by David Litch of John Wick fame. This stars Brad Pitt as a hapless assassin, I guess you could call him, sort of bagman, who's on this bullet train trying to recover a MacGuffin amongst a ton of other assassins on the train. It's fun. It's definitely an homage to Tarantino and to Guy Ritchie. It's got some good action in it, a little cheesy, but I thought the fun outweighed some of the lesser parts of this movie that I enjoyed.
You thought it was an homage?
Maybe not an homage, but okay, maybe not homage.
I think
is the
they
wrong
cribbed
word.
the style, but not to honor those guys.
I mean, I think there's definitely some reverence it was taking that style with. So, I mean, you don't see movies like 90s Tarantino and Guy Ritchie anymore. So I think that's why you call it homage.
Okay, maybe. I don't know. Fair enough. My number 564 is from 1973, American Graffiti. George Lucas's first film, pre-Star Wars. Not first film, second film. It's a hangout movie. I enjoyed it. It puts you square in the time period with characters that need to make time-appropriate decisions over the course of one night. And I don't know if it's a super important movie in the history of American film, but it's super important in my brain just because it's what George Lucas did before Star Wars, which I think is maybe where it's historically significant to most people. And turns out it was good, and it makes sense that he went kind of from this to his passion project of Star Wars. My 564.
Cool. My 564 is the aforementioned, but not on someone's list, The French Connection, starring Gene Hackman. And this was a movie that I think is most famous for its car chase, which is one of the best car chases in like movie history.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a really good kind of like New York City detectives on the case of a drug ring kind of movie. And it's, it's gritty and it's got a lot of like 70s cop action and it's great.
Gritty is a good word to describe that movie.
Mm-hmm.
My 564 is Silverado, which is my old 498. So that got bumped out by my new 486, Elvis from 2022, starring Austin Butler, Tom Hanks, directed by Baz Luhrmann. This movie, it was good. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed it much more than I thought I was going to. I avoided it for a long time because it was Baz Luhrmann, who I thought I didn't like, but I do. So I need to rewatch Moulin Rouge, apparently. It's long, but this movie gave me more depth to the Elvis story than I knew. Like, I knew kind of the highlights of Elvis, but I didn't know some of the deeper things, as well as entertained me. Like, there's a lot of style in this movie because it's Baz Luhrmann, and I think it worked to take Baz Luhrmann's over-the-top filmmaking and mix it with Elvis, who was a bigger than life at the height of his fame.
My number 563 is from 2012. It's Django Unchained. Speaking of Tarantino, don't know why this is so low / high on the list. However, what your perspective is.
Low.
It's the only Tarantino movie I believe I've only seen once. I don't know why. Like, I don't remember having like bad feelings towards it or anything like that, but yet it has never inspired a rewatch. And yet I've seen others that were more recent a couple times. I think I've seen Not Quite Hollywood. No, that's that documentary. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood 2 or 3 times. And yet I've only seen Django Unchained once, and it's been 11 years. So sounds like I'm talking down this movie. When in reality, I do enjoy it, as I do most Tarantino movies. And that's why I've put it on my list right here at number 563.
Nice. Well, my number 563 is a documentary called Apollo 11 from 2019. And this movie is just gorgeous. It's documentary footage that I think was like archived right after it was taken, and then they found it again and put it together. And it tracks Apollo 11 mission with all this like just beautiful like is it 70 millimeter footage? It's just very high def.
It's high def footage of the moon landing that's never been seen before.
Yeah, and like the astronauts getting ready for it and all that kind of stuff, and it's great. It's really, really kind of amazing to watch. It feels so present. So I like Apollo 11 quite a bit.
Yeah, and it's not talking heads. The whole thing is told with archival footage and archival audio. So you're just getting what happened those days to be presented to you as is, which is pretty cool. All right, my 563 is a 2023 movie. I usually don't include such recent movies on this list, but I really like this movie. This will probably be in my top 20 of 2023, and it is called Rye Lane. This is I guess you could describe this as the rom-com version of Before Sunrise, the Richard Linklater movie. This is about 2 people in South London, the Rye Lane area. They're both in their 20-somethings. They both just had a breakup. They have a meet cute, and they spend the day together, starting as strangers and then becoming friends and possibly more by the end of the day. And it's a really charming movie. It's really well acted. David Johnson and Vivia Opara play the 2 leads, which I don't think anyone have really heard much from them before. But I enjoyed it a lot. My wife enjoyed it. I think this is a 2023 movie that maybe is not getting talked about, but should be checked out.
Nice. I've added it to my watch list. My number 562 from 2013, The Kings of Summer, which is a great coming-of-age film about a trio of brothers who decide they're going to run away from home and live in the woods. And they get up to some light shenanigans while worrying their single father, I believe. Or maybe the mother wasn't mentioned. I don't remember. But this is a good one. If you like dramas, if you like coming of age movies, if you like summer movies, this is a movie that takes place during the summer. So there's a reason to watch it. Also, another reason is the guy who directed The Kings of Summer, the movie he made right after it is on Kyle's list. It was Kong Skull Island.
Oh, yeah.
That's a wild follow-up to The Kings of Summer.
Kings of Summer followed by Kong.
Yeah, to go from The Kings of Summer and then the next movie you make is Kong Skull Island. I couldn't think of two movies that are farther away from each other in style and subject. But both movies that I like too. Kings of Summer, more than Kong Skull Island, but didn't hate that movie either. Zach?
My number 562 is a short film from 1903 directed by Thomas Edison called The Gay Shoe Clerk.
Thomas Edison?
Really hoping for Electric the Elephant to pop up on your list. I thought we were so close with that one.
I know. We got close. This is the Thomas Edison, absolutely. And he directed the short film. It's only like 3 minutes, 2 minutes long, 3 minutes long. It's called The Gay Shoe Clerk. And gay in the sense of like lighthearted or, easygoing. The film, he is helping a woman do a fitting, of a shoe at the store. And then after she kind of like likes the shoe, he goes in and tries to steal a kiss. And someone sees that happening and then he like fights him. And it's just such a funny artifact from 120 years ago. And I like that it exists and I like that Thomas Edison made it. And so I recommend checking it out on YouTube, The Gay Shoe Clerk.
Sounds like a real Revenge of the Nerds situation. I think we should cancel Albert Einstein or whoever it was.
Edison?
Edison's
Thomas already been kind of canceled anyway by history.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
he canceled himself. If you ever want to like really pad your Letterboxd watch stats, just watch a ton of shorts from like turn of the century, because they're like all a couple minutes long, and you could get like 50 of them done in an afternoon.
Yeah.
All right, my five.
When you watch a 3 minute short, do you just watch the first minute and then decide if you're going to watch the rest?
Yeah, and honestly, I want to know: is there an elephant in this short, and is it going to die or not? And if it's not going to happen, I move on to the next one. So.
Yeah, move on.
Yep,
move on.
Fair enough.
Yeah. All right, my 562 is Nobody, which is my old 497. So that's been replaced by my new 483. This is convoluted. Faust. This is a 1926 silent film directed by F.W. Murnau. This is the story of Faust, who makes, a deal with the devil to have a new life. It is fascinating silent footage, very Tim Burton-esque, I would say. So I watched this movie and I was like, oh, okay, I bet you Tim Burton loves Faust, because there are a lot of parallels between the filmmaking style of this and what he was doing in the 90s and beyond.
That's a movie Zach likes too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Haven't seen it. My number 561, 2014. The movie is The Lego Movie. Far better than it deserves to. Far better than it deserves to be. And I have not seen the sequel because I feel like I just don't need to. Like I didn't hear any good things about it, and The Lego Movie is kind of like this perfect storm of like better than it should be, like I said. And so why muddy the waters with an inferior sequel? And that's where it lies. My 561.
Lego Movie walked so Barbie could run.
Okay.
My 561 is We Were Soldiers from 2002. Can't believe that was 2002. That was a long time ago. Yeah, this is a Mel Gibson movie about the Vietnam War, and it's just really good and intense.
Yeah.
Who directed that? There's like a name to that movie, right?
Randall Wallace.
Oh, not Mel Gibson. I thought Gibson directed it.
No. I was thinking of Terrence Malick. That's Thin Red Line.
Yeah, very different movie than We Were Soldiers.
Right.
All right, my 561 is Long Shot, which is my old 496. So that's been replaced by my new 479, which is Jackie Brown, a movie that we rewatched all together back in Georgia. This feels actually kind of low. Like I feel like Jackie Brown should be higher, but it's slotted here, so I'm going to stick with it for now. This is Tarantino's third movie from 1997. You guys just watched this with me, but it stars Pam Grier as a flight attendant who gets wrapped up in a she's moving money.
Caper.
Yes.
Caper.
Yeah. Thank you. A caper. Anyway, she's moving money. So she gets involved with the detectives, the bondsmen. There's a whole lot of moving parts in this movie. It's not very Tarantino-esque compared to other things he's done. This is sort of like Tarantino making a heist movie. And I think we all agreed we would like to see more Tarantino doing genre movies, not just Tarantino movies.
Agreed. My number 560. We are 10 away from being done with this episode. My number 560 is Paths of Glory from 1957. This is the Stanley Kubrick World War I war movie. Is this World War I?
It is.
I don't remember. All right. I mean, what's there to say that we didn't say in our episode where we did the entire filmography of Stanley Kubrick? Go look that up and figure out whether I've stayed true to my ranking there in my top 600 films rankings.
That's a Kyle guest episode right there.
Yep.
You got all three of us. Yep.
My 560 is a documentary called Tim's Vermeer. Have either of you seen this?
Heard of it.
Oh, yeah. The documentary.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is directed by Teller of Penn and Teller fame. And it is about a guy that became fascinated with this theory about Vermeer, who's a 7th century famous Dutch painter. This theory was that, Vermeer makes these very detailed paintings, like incredibly detailed. And this theory is that he used a camera obscura, like invention of his own at the time, to basically project a real image onto a wall in a little like room that he'd make for himself. And then he would like basically paint over it, like trace it. And so it's this fascinating documentary of him trying to recreate the technique if that was indeed how Vermeer did it. So he made like this little box that he would have like a little projector lens kind of almost like shine a real life tableau onto his canvas. And then he would like make little tiny detail paintings like tracing the canvas. And it's just super interesting about him trying to reverse engineer this technique. It's really well shot. It's very intriguing and, talks about art and the nature of like, is it art if he's using technology to create it? All these kind of things. I really recommend it. If you're at all interested in what I talked about, it's called Tim's Vermeer.
All right. My 560 is The Last King of Scotland, which is my old 495. So that got replaced by my new 479, Triangle of Sadness from 2022. This is the movie about two model influencers who go on a super rich cruise in, I think, the Mediterranean, possibly. This movie is definitely a commentary on class and financial structures, because there are some crazy things that happen on the boat and some even crazier things happen off the boat. I thought this movie was really good and maybe one of the best movie scenes involving bodily fluids I've ever seen.
All right. My number 559 is from 2014. It's Spring, which is a movie that I love and have recommended multiple times. And I don't think Zach has ever watched it.
I'd love
Right?
to. I'd love to.
Absolutely.
Sounds great.
I can tell. It's another micro budget movie, but this one is filmed in Italy by Americans, and has great drone shots in it. Like before drone shots were a thing, these guys kind of pioneered the idea of like in low budget filmmaking using drones to like, there's literally drones like follow characters around while they talk in the movie. That's pretty wild. And I believe they also filmed this like on the down low. Like they didn't tell the city or the country of Italy that they were going to film it. They just kind of like filmed it. And that's interesting about it. And also it's a good vampire-esque movie. Meaning like it's certainly more than that, but it does have a framing device of a love story that involves vampires, but not in like an interview with the vampire kind of way, in like a more tactful, more realistic kind of way. I think Spring is a hidden gem. In fact, I probably put it on one of those lists back in the day. 559 Spring.
Can't wait to check it out. My 559 is The Constant Gardener from 2005. This is a drama set in Africa. Basically, this like British guy played by who is it? Justin.
It's Ray Fiennes.
Ray Fiennes, yeah. His wife gets murdered, and so he tries to figure out why or how or what happened. And he kind of uncovers this like plot from a pharmaceutical company that is taking advantage of people in Kenya. And it's just a really beautiful film, and it's politically charged in a way that like hit me at the right moment in 2005. And I think it's really well shot, and it's like this mix of like a romance and like a political thriller.
Always want to see that movie. It's been on the watch list for a while.
Nice.
My 559 is a Netflix movie from 2020 called The Old Guard. This movie stars Charlize Theron as the leader of a group of immortal mercenaries, is probably the best way to describe them, who have been affecting world events in the shadows for centuries because of their immortality, or pretty close immortality. The movie takes place in the modern era, where a pharma bro essentially discovers that they are immortal and is trying to capture them to monetize their abilities. So Charlize Theron and her team of mercenaries are trying to keep themselves safe, while also bringing a new member into the group, played by Kiki Lane. I like this movie. I think it's a really cool concept, and there's been a rumored sequel for a while now, which I am hoping comes out soon.
My number 558 is from 2015. It's Chappie, which is a great film about a robot directed by Neil Blomkamp. Zach shaking his head. We disagree on this one, I believe. It's also one of my most liked reviews on Letterboxd. Nice. 215 likes on this one. So I'm not the only one, I guess is what I'm saying, who enjoys Chappie, which is like a weird mix of Short Circuit, RoboCop, John Carpenter movies, and other Blomkamp films, like all mashed up. And then you also have it star the weird, what are they, Swedish rappers? Die Antwoord?
South African.
That's what they are. Throw them in the mix, and you have a really weird movie with a touching center. It's Chappie from 2015.
Have you seen the clip of Die Antwoord performing on David Letterman?
No, but sounds amazing.
So they're doing like whatever their big song was, like I Think You're Freaky and I Like You a Lot, or whatever it was called. Right. And David Letterman is just, at the end, he's just speechless, has no idea what to say.
I think it's I Think You're Freaky.
Yeah, with F's. Yeah. So I'll send it to you.
All right.
My 558 is True Grit from 2010. This is the Coen Brothers remake. And I like this movie a lot. Jeff Bridges is in it, Matt Damon, Josh Brolin, Haley Steinfeld. I think this is the first movie I saw with her in it. And it's super good and watchable. I kind of wish that what's his name? Tarantino wasn't in it. But other than that, I liked it.
Tarantino?
Yeah.
He's in True Grit?
I believe so.
I believe you if it's true. I do not remember him whatsoever. So obviously he did not leave an impression on me.
I don't remember him being in it either. It's possible he is, but I didn't leave an impression on me either.
I mean, there's a good chance I'm thinking of another movie.
Like Django, maybe?
I could be thinking of Django.
Okay. 'Cause I'm pretty sure Tarantino might be in Django.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
I only saw that once, remember?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, no, that I do remember. Yeah. All right, my 558 is Jackie, which is my old 494. So that got replaced by my new 476, Rocket Man from 2019. It was directed by Dexter Fletcher, starring Taron Egerton. This is the story of Elton John. And this is a biopic, however you want to put it. But the movie uses Elton John's music to kind of narrate his life. So it's not a straight telling of his life, but there'll be a moment where something's happening and then the song Tiny Dancer, an Elton John song, can sort of correlate to that moment in his life. So then people in the movie will break out in Tiny Dancer musical style. So it's a little heightened, but it's a clever job of tying in Elton John's music to also give you the story of how he became the superstar he is. Dexter Fletcher was involved with Bohemian Rhapsody.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like the movie that Bohemian Rhapsody wished it could have been.
All right. Fair enough. My number 557. Was this previously mentioned on this episode from 2015, Beasts of No Nation?
Not yet. No.
Okay. Yeah, so Beasts of No Nation from 2015. This is the very first Netflix movie, meaning a movie bought by Netflix and released on the service and is perpetually there. This is a movie that is about a kid in a war. And so if you don't want to see kids involved in a war, you should probably pass on it. Not that there's anything super ridiculously harsh in the movie, but it's definitely kids that put in situations that you wouldn't want your own kids in, for sure. And it's really well done. Directed by Cary Fukunaga, who went on to, I think he made Sin Nombre before this movie, I believe. And Sin Nombre is like a top 250 movie for me. That movie's amazing. And Beasts of No Nation, also good. Cary Fukunaga's latest was No Time to Die. So he's definitely graduated up to big budget Hollywood movies at this point. And Beasts of No Nation is really, really well acted, but a little harrowing if you are sensitive to child endangerment.
Cool. My 557
Where do you go from there, Zach?
I was like, okay. Is a Western called Rio Bravo from 1959. This is by Howard Hawks, and it stars John Wayne and Dean Martin and Ricky Nelson and Walter Brennan. And it's so great. It's a really just comfy Western. Basically, like, there's a witness to a murder that has to be protected until a U.S. Marshal can get there, because the guy who he witnessed murder is going to come with his posse to kill him. And so John Wayne, Dean Martin, and Ricky Nelson have to, like, basically defend this guy. And they're just like one's like a recovering alcoholic, former deputy, and other one's this young guy who's like fresh and green, and one's like this, cantankerous old man named Stumpy. And, at one point they all like sing together and it's just a very cozy Western, and I like it a lot. It's very charming. So it's called Rio Bravo, and it's by Howard Hawks, who's like Mr. Western. So it's great.
Do you know the backstory to this movie?
So this was originally going to be Gone with the Wind, but they right before filming it, they switched gears.
Not quite. Howard Hawks and John Wayne saw High Noon, right? And that's about a sheriff that tries to get a posse together, and spoiler alert, no one will help the sheriff, right? And he's wrestling with, like, do I have to kill? And he's a very pensive sheriff. And John Wayne and Howard Hawks saw this movie and was like, no sheriff would ever think that much about death. No sheriff would ever be left high and dry. So they made Rio Bravo as like the anti High Noon, where the posse's they're always there. They're all manly men. So
That's funny.
yeah, it's fun to watch in that context of being like, yeah, how macho can we be in a movie? All right, my 577 is Dallas Buyers Club, which is my old 493. It's a weird movie to have on my list, but there it is. So that got replaced by my new 469, which is Shiva Baby from 2020. This movie stars Rachel Sennett as a college student who is at a Shiva, which I believe is a Jewish funeral or Jewish wake. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And it is a cringe comedy where she is being sort of cornered by her relatives at all point about what she wants to do with her life. Her ex-girlfriend is there, who seems to be more popular than she is, and her sugar daddy is there with his family. So it is about a girl or a young woman trying to survive the day. Definitely a breakout role for Rachel Sennett, and I'm really excited to see her in Bottoms. I think we need to talk about that movie on this podcast when it becomes available to us.
I'm down. My number 556 is from 1983, and it's titled Something Wicked This Way Comes. Did you guys ever see this
No.
when you were kids?
No.
Mm-mm.
This is a rarity. It's a it's a good Disney horror movie. Meaning like Disney actually put their name on this movie and released it in 1983.
83, okay.
It's not on Disney Plus, and I don't think it ever will be. I mean, if they haven't added it now, I mean, we're talking like 5 years later. I think there's no real rush to put it on there, probably because it's legitimately scary. And it's not often that you see Disney put their name on something that even horror people say is scary. You know what I mean? It's a movie that's all atmosphere, but it's so well executed in the visuals. It's like a traveling I don't know, carnival barker type guy who like will give you a wish, but it's one of those like be careful what you wish for type of scenarios, and it's a little bit told in anthology style, but not really at the same time. It's really well done, really super creepy without being scary in like a gross, 80s slasher kind of way, right? It's like what people wanted like the Goosebumps movies to be, like legitimately scary, but also you could take your kids because there's no blood type of thing. And that's Something Wicked This Way Comes is like the formula for how to do exactly that. And it's really well done, has a cult following at this point. And I think it's worth a poke if you're a fan of horror movies, or even if you're not and you just want to see like a kid's psychological thriller done very well, probably too well, then check out Something Wicked This Way Comes.
So this is a kid-friendly horror movie, is what you're saying.
I'm saying it's a kid-friendly horror movie from the 80s.
Yeah.
So their standard of what's kid-friendly is different than what today's standard of kid-friendly is. And so maybe if you feel like your kid could handle this, maybe throw another 2 years onto it.
Okay.
Because it's probably a little more intense than what you think it might be because of today's standard versus the 80s.
Fair. All right. I'm intrigued by this. So
you could absolutely watch it without your kid and be entertained by it. I think you would like it. I think Zach would like it too.
Nice. Okay. My number 556 is Phone Booth from 2002. It's a Joel Schumacher film with Colin Farrell stuck in a phone booth. And Kiefer Sutherland is a sniper that says, I will shoot you if you leave the phone booth. And this is the only movie I've walked out of the theater during. And it wasn't because I wasn't enjoying it. I was enjoying it quite a bit. But I was with a group of people and one person from my group walked out. And I didn't want them to sit alone outside the theater. But I caught this one later and I really like it. So it's It's a early 2000s thriller that they never make anymore. But it's like all shot in one location, basically in this phone booth. And so they have to come up with like 1,000 different ways to film it as the movie goes on, so it's not boring. And I like it.
So you're saying you saw like maybe the first 45 minutes of this movie.
Yep.
Chose not to finish it, but those first 45 minutes gave you enough that you felt like you could have enjoyed the rest of that movie. So you watched the rest of it, and here it is. This is what you're saying, correct?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I was forced to not finish it despite my.
No, you were not forced. You chose to leave that. No one made you leave that theater.
No, I was forced by my principles of chivalry.
No, yeah, your principles exactly.
Yeah,
again,
yeah. I have no
force
control over
means
those.
outside force. That's an altruistic interior force.
No,
so
decorum and dignity demanded it.
you chose to leave that theater, which is fine. But I'm saying you saw enough of that movie in those first 45 minutes to be like, oh, I think I'll like the rest of this movie, and you did. So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I was curious to see if it'd be similar to what I thought, or if there'd be a difference at the end. Maybe I'd be surprised by how bad it was at the end.
Oh, good. Okay. And that's why it's your 556.
Yeah.
My 556 is Top Gun: Maverick from 2022. This is probably the best Lego sequel I have seen, if I was to make that statement without thinking too much about it. This movie takes, I think, what worked from Top Gun and gave me more of it. Excised what did not work with Top Gun, and then gave me new stuff that worked as well. This movie is better than Top Gun. I'm going to stand by that, and that's why Top Gun hopefully is not any higher than this movie on this list.
That's funny.
My number 555 is Cape Fear from 1991. This is the Martin Scorsese thriller about an attorney who had the opportunity to get his client a rapist who is being prosecuted. He finds some evidence that might get him off, even though he's convinced he's guilty, even though he's his defender. And then he leaves out that evidence and allows him to be convicted, which he was guilty. But as his attorney, you're under some kind of oath to, try to get him out. So that guy serves jail time and then comes back and wants revenge after he finds out that he could have been found innocent of this crime that he actually committed. And it's a good one. It's a weird Martin Scorsese movie, I would say. Like, if you look at the canon of his movies, this one kind of sticks out as like a little different than most of them. And I think for that reason, sometimes it gets overlooked. I enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy most of the Martin Scorsese movies I have seen. And this is one of them. It's in my top 600.
You didn't mention that
Nice.
De Niro's absolutely jacked in this movie.
He is.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot to mention that.
Well,
Robert De Niro is absolutely jacked in this
You didn't
movie.
mention he was in the movie in the first place, so.
I didn't mention any of the people in the movie. I saw
All right.
a video on Twitter. I'll try to find it. Go ahead, Zach.
My number 555 is The Nutty Professor from 1963. It's a Jerry Lewis movie where he plays a professor that invents flubber, basically, that gives off more energy than it takes in, and all the nutty things that he does with it. And I just loved this movie as a kid, and I watched it relatively recently, and I still liked it. So The Nutty Professor.
Does the flubber dance?
No.
Oh, bummer. All right. My 555 is Capote, which is my old 492. So my new movie to the list is my 464, the previously mentioned Mitchells versus the Machines.
Nice. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's why it's 464. I liked it.
My number 554 is from 2018. It's Blind Spotting. Which did we talk about Blind Spotting on this podcast? I don't remember.
I don't think so.
I mean,
Did you watch it, Zach?
no.
Oh.
Yeah, I've seen Blind Spotting.
Right. It's good. It's about race relations, but like with a modern sensibility to it, I would say. And it became a TV show that I haven't watched yet, but supposedly that's good too. Like the exact same creative team from Blind Spotting just turned the concept into a TV show. But the film from 2018, definitely worth checking out. And that's the end of that. Go ahead, Zach.
All right. My 554 is a documentary called Tower from 2016. It's about the Texas Tower shooting from 1966. But it's all rotoscoped. So it's just an interesting way to present the documentary, but it's all rotoscoped of the events and people talking about it and reenactments and that kind of thing. And it's a really good doc.
My 554 is Elite Squad, which is my old 491. So it's been replaced by my new 463 Tar from 2022. In this movie, Cate Blanchett plays a famous conductor for I think it's the New York Philharmonic. I'm not sure. And this movie starts to be about her trying to interpret Mahler's Fifth, but then some things about her relationships he has with her staff come out. It becomes much more about her trying to fight allegations and save her legacy. It's told very, I don't know. The filmmaking style is very interesting. It's almost like a horror movie at times. Remember we all talked about there's a fact that she wakes up in the bed in one moment and there's like a shadowy figure sitting in a chair in her bedroom and it's never addressed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, like there's definitely some weird things going on in this movie. But it is an incredible Cate Blanchett performance, and also a lot of heavy music stuff going on. So as people know, I'm a music major, former music teacher. I really enjoyed a lot of the music conversations happening in this movie.
My number 553 is from 1955. It's Diabolique, which I believe is a movie that Zach made me watch at some point or recommended, and then I watched. I don't remember why I watched this, but I clearly enjoyed it because otherwise it wouldn't have made my list. I don't remember much about it. Is this the one with the pool? Somebody drowns in a pool?
Yes, this is the one with the like all boys school and the headmaster and his wife and all that.
And somebody drowns, and then it's like kind of like, how did that happen?
Someone drowns in the pool, and there's a cover up and gaslighting.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's all trickling back to me, I would say. But I do remember enjoying it, and it's not often that movies from 1955 get positive treatment from the old back of the brain, and this one did. Diabolique.
Nice.
Hitchcock wanted to make this movie. He
Oh, really?
couldn't. Yep. So then he either commissioned the authors of this movie to make him the next movie, or he bought the rights to their next movie, and that was Vertigo. So without Lady Diabolique, we may not have had Vertigo.
That's awesome. My 553 is The Killing of Two Lovers from 2020. It's a movie we've covered on the show. But it's just a really small, independent little drama of relationships, and it's great.
What do they call it when they like put it's like the title of the movie is like something that sets an audience expectation, and you're just watching the movie waiting to build up to that.
Yeah.
And this movie does it so well, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call that plot device.
Like a foreshadow?
Right, but like right there in the it's a spoiler title.
Yeah.
The Killing of Two Lovers is like, it's a spoiler right there. But that's okay because the movie is far more about the journey to the promise of the title than it is the actual title. Also, I remember that movie being really short, like 70 minutes or something like that. Yeah. So if you haven't seen that and you just need something to watch over lunch, you could watch that one.
I mean, would you enjoy it over lunch, or is it you could watch it over lunch?
I mean, it's not a gory movie or anything. It's mostly slow burn drama, but short.
Okay. Am I up 553? Am I up now?
You're up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. My 553 is a documentary from 2021. Like Zach's previous documentary, this is also rotoscoped, and it is called Flea. And this is the true story of a man who lives in Denmark, but he is recounting when he used to live in Afghanistan and fled Afghanistan during the Taliban takeover, and that harrowing tale. And it's a tale that he's never quite shared with his family. Or his new family in Denmark. So he is sharing this tale for the first time, and we're also learning it as viewers. It's very, very good. Highly recommend Flea.
I never heard of that. I don't think. But I'm into it. We're up to 552. Almost there. Just 2 more movies.
It's not a tumor.
My number 552 is Dunkirk from 2017. Another Nolan film that I'm sure some people think is far too low on my list. But they can't all be up there towards the top, right? And Dunkirk is an amazing thrill ride of a movie. Don't know much about its rewatchability, even though I've seen it like 3 times, but you know, it gets less and less exciting as time goes on because there's not a whole lot of meat on the bones. Just it's a thrill ride.
Just an experience. Yeah.
It's just an experience. That's it. Which is great. It's a great experience. First time only. Second, third, a little less, but 552 Dunkirk.
Awesome. That is a callback. Okay, my number 552 is Drive from 2011. This is another Ryan Gosling film directed by Nicholas Winding Refn, and it's just a cool movie. So I like it.
It's cool.
He's a driver. He drives.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Just driving. Nothing else happens.
Stylish.
Yeah. Scorpion jackets. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, they're scorpion jackets.
Yeah. My 552 is Warrior from 2011, which is my old 490. So my movie that replaced it is my new 461, All Quiet on the Western Front, the 2022 version. This is a remake of the book of the same title of the movie from the 30s.
Nailed it.
About World War I. I thought this movie was pretty gritty, pretty hard to watch. It's definitely a horrors of war style movie. Maybe some people on this podcast think we've been to that well too many times, but I thought this movie had something to say and gave me something new in the pantheon of striking war imagery.
Speaking of war movies, my final film for this episode, my number 551, is from 2016. It's Allied, which is another war set movie. This one, 1942. There's Brad Pitt and Marion Cotillard are intelligence agents from different countries who meet up and coordinate to be spies, I would say, in North Africa. And they fall in love. And then later on in life, they become suspicious as to whether their own relationship is simply a double cross. It's directed by Robert Zemeckis, who directed lots of movies that lots of people love, including the Back to the Future movies and Forrest Gump and Roger Rabbit and Contact, amongst others. So if you trust the guy who made those movies, then trust me on Allied and check it out if you haven't.
Nice. Okay, my 551 is Knives Out, which was the first movie of the series of movies with the onion that I had on, a glass onion that I had on.
What is
his
your
name?
brain leaking out of your ears, Zach?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. What is the guy's brain? Or the guy's name? The
Ryan
detective?
Johnson?
No, the detective.
Daniel Craig?
No, but his character's name.
Oh, Foghorn Leghorn?
No, it's not Foghorn.
It's it's an alliteration. I don't know. It's late.
Anyways, whatever.
Louis
Knives Out.
Leterrier or something like that.
551.
That's a director.
I know.
It's like Beauchamp or something like that.
Rochambeau. Oh man, James, look it up while I do my 551. You should really call that Knives Out: a Knives Out story, just to keep the
to
keep the
format
title going. Yeah. All right. Well, my 551 is Unbreakable from 2000, but that's my old 489. So instead, I want to talk about my new movie to the list, which is my new 460, Black Hawk Down from 2001, directed by Ridley Scott. This is a telling of the operation in Mogadishu, Somalia in the 90s to arrest some warlords that ended up in a Black Hawk helicopter being shot down, and then the subsequent rescue of the American soldiers who were in that helicopter, and then their helicopters being shot down. It really became a real kerfuffle of a situation. This is a movie that I watched a lot in college on DVD, being that came out in 2001. It was an early DVD movie. If I had made this list maybe a year ago before rewatching Black Hawk Down, this would have been higher on my list. I did watch it on 4K recently. 4K transfer is great. And the action scenes are great. And I think some of the actors in this are pretty good. I did find, however, though, the depictions of the Somalis to be a little stereotypical and did not age well. So I'm a little mixed on this movie on some aspects, but I still like it. And that's why it's my 460.
Cool. Daniel Craig's character in Knives Out was Benoit Blanc.
Benoit Blanc. I told you it was alliteration. I just couldn't figure out what the letters were.
Right. Also, I mentioned a video I saw on Twitter, which I have found, but just to refresh your memory, my brain sparked when Kyle was saying Robert De Niro is jacked in Cape Fear. And for some reason, my brain went to this video that I saw on Twitter that has nothing to do with Robert De Niro. It has something to do with Al Pacino, who's in Martin Scorsese movies, who directed Cape Fear. And so that's why my brain made the connection.
All right.
So I don't know if you guys want to hear this video real quick, but it is great. It's William Friedkin talking about Al Pacino and Tommy Lee Jones. And he's brutally honest about both of them. You guys ready?
Go for it.
Then we'll get out of here.
I was asking the question because of the end of Cruising, because what you wrote in your biography. That's a one shot kind of changed the plot, the character of Steve, played by Al Pacino. And Pacino felt dispossessed of he felt as he had lost the
I don't
character.
give a flying into a rolling donut about what Al Pacino thinks. Is that an answer to your question, Greg?
Yeah, it's the straightest answer I could. I
mean, I could be sitting here for an hour and try and explain it, but that's a fact.
Exactly.
You know?
Of course.
I cared a lot, for example, about what Tommy Lee Jones thought, because this guy was a brilliant, professional, prepared actor. Mm-hmm. And he would think about his character more than the director, more than me. He would come to the set with absolutely brilliant ideas. And I don't feel the same about Pacino.
Wow.
That's some heat.
Okay.
Yeah. Honestly, that movie makes me want, that clip makes me want to bring back the flying F-bomb. People just don't say that anymore. It's been aged out. And
that line is where is it?
Was it? Let's play it again for the kids.
I don't give a flying into a rolling donut.
What does that even mean?
Oh, I could probably describe it, but this is a family show.
All right. William Friedkin, also related to our list because he directed what?
The Exorcist? Oh, French Connection.
French Connection.
And he passed away very recently, didn't he?
I believe he did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for listening to this episode 599 of the Cinereelists. We appreciate your listenership. Thanks for hanging with us for this extended episode. Next week, we will be doing episode 600, which covers films 501 to 550
Yes.
of our top 600 films. Not confusing at all. So be sure to check that out and follow this podcast on YouTube, youtube.com/@Cinereelists. Also, check us out on Patreon. Leave us an Apple Podcast review. Send us an email or follow us on social media on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok @Cinereelists. Or you can follow me on my personal Twitter or Letterboxd account @YoJRB.
I'm on Twitter or Letterboxd @Shaban.
You can find me on Letterboxd @PeterSKB.
This was a long one, but fun. We'll see you guys next week. Until then, keep it cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.